Across the long history of Pokemon journeys, one item has quietly shaped every adventure. The Poké Ball, simple in its design yet endlessly important, has followed trainers through regions, discoveries, and generations. Its smooth shell has changed very little, but the ideas behind it have grown deeper than most players ever realize, revealing variations and mechanics hidden behind its familiar colors. And tonight we drift through the evolution and meaning of the device that makes every capture possible. Before you drift off, maybe tap subscribe for more gentle videos, and let me know where you're listening from tonight, as the earliest days of training began with a single tool that allowed people to turn chance encounters into lasting partners. The standard Pokeball entered the franchise as the foundational capturing device, offered in every Pokemart from Viridian City to the farthest routes. Its one-times catch rate created the baseline against which all future balls would be measured, a simple multiplier that determined whether a thrown sphere would succeed or fail. The design, red across the top hemisphere and white below, divided by a thin black band with a central button, became so universally recognized that no other symbol could represent the franchise quite the same way. Trainers starting their journeys received these balls freely, often as gifts from professors or purchased with early prize money earned from defeating youngsters and bug catchers on the opening routes. The Pokeball's accessibility made it the default choice for catching common Pokemon like Rattata, Pidgey, and Caterpie, creatures whose low levels and modest catch rates rarely required stronger tools. The price point of 200 Poké-Yen made standard Pokeballs affordable, even for trainers just beginning their adventures, typically purchased in sets of 5 or 10, depending on available funds. Early routes offered such weak Pokemon that even the basic one-times multiplier succeeded more often than not, creating positive feedback loops where successful catches generated confidence and encouraged exploration. The Viridian City Pokemart became legendary among players as the first shop most trainers visited, the place where the journey's catching phase truly began after receiving the starter Pokemon from Professor Oak. The clerk behind the counter offered 5 free Pokeballs during the player's first visit in some games, a tutorial gift that taught the basic mechanics without requiring any financial investment. The tactile feedback of throwing Pokeballs, at least as imagined through game animations and anime depictions, suggested a physical weight and heft that made them substantial objects rather than flimsy toys. The button mechanism that triggered the ball's opening required deliberate pressure, preventing accidental releases while still allowing quick deployment during battle. The interior technology that converted Pokemon into energy and stored them in a stable state remained one of the franchise's greatest unexplained mysteries, with no games offering detailed scientific breakdowns of how the conversion process actually worked. Players accepted this as background technology, similar to how fantasy settings accept magic without requiring thermodynamic explanations. The standardization of Pokeball design across all regions suggested a global manufacturing process that maintained consistent quality control and specifications. A Pokeball purchased in Kanto functioned identically to one bought in Galar, despite the thousands of miles and years separating those regions. This consistency implied either a single dominant manufacturer with worldwide distribution or strict international standards that all producers adhered to. The anime occasionally showed Pokeball factories, massive industrial facilities, where automated assembly lines produced thousands of balls daily, feeding the constant demand from trainers across the world. The environmental impact of Pokeball production never received serious attention in the games or anime, though the sheer volume of balls manufactured and potentially discarded raised theoretical sustainability questions. Pokemon that were caught and then released immediately left their balls behind as abandoned items, though the games never depicted littered landscapes covered in empty shells. Perhaps the balls biodegraded, or perhaps recall technology required them to dematerialize along with released Pokemon. The ambiguity allowed players to imagine whatever explanation satisfied their environmental concerns without being confronted by the logical implications of billions of manufactured capsules. The cultural significance of the Poké Ball extended into real-world merchandise, where replica balls became popular collectibles. These toys ranged from simple foam spheres to electronic devices that opened with button presses and made authentic sound effects. The most elaborate replicas included working lights and speakers that played the distinctive capture sounds, allowing fans to recreate the throwing motion and experience a tactile connection to the games. Some merchandise lines produced full sets of specialty balls, creating collector's items that displayed the various designs in physical form. The symbolism of the Poké Ball as a home, rather than a prison, appeared repeatedly in game dialogue and anime episodes. Characters described their Pokémon as being comfortable inside their balls, resting peacefully between battles in a space designed for their needs. This framing positioned the ball as protective shelter, a safe haven where Pokémon could recover from injuries and await their next deployment. The choice to return to the ball after battles suggested voluntary cooperation rather than forced imprisonment, with Pokémon that disliked their trainers shown breaking free or refusing to emerge when summoned. What most players don't consider is how the Pokeball's mechanics function beneath the surface, hidden in game code that determines success through invisible calculations. When a ball makes contact with a wild Pokemon, the game checks the target's current health, its species catch rate, and any status conditions affecting it before running a formula that outputs either capture or escape. Sleep and freeze conditions improved odds significantly, while paralysis and burn offered smaller bonuses, teaching players that strategic preparation mattered as much as the ball itself. The shaking animation that followed each throw, where the ball rocked once, twice, 3 times before either clicking shut or bursting open, created tension that defined the catching experience across every generation. The standard Pokeball appeared in spin-off titles as well, maintaining its role as the universal capturing device across different gameplay formats. In Pokemon Pinball, balls functioned as the primary resource for triggering catch modes, while in Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness, they retained their traditional function despite those games' focus on snagging already caught Pokemon from corrupt trainers. The anime portrayed Pokeballs as Ash's constant companion, the device he used to summon Pikachu and his rotating team of partners through countless battles and adventures. Even in the Adventures manga, the red and white sphere appeared on nearly every page, a visual shorthand for the bond between trainer and creature that required no explanation. Generation 3 introduced a subtle change to how Pokeballs functioned in the breeding system, a detail that went unnoticed by many casual players at the time. In Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, all Pokemon hatched from eggs automatically appeared inside standard Pokeballs, regardless of what ball type their parents had been caught in. This meant that even if a trainer had captured a Skitty in a Love Ball and a Wailmer in a Dive Ball, their offspring would emerge from the egg inside a basic Pokeball, erasing the parental heritage. The change felt arbitrary to those who cared about ball aesthetics, particularly collectors who wanted their breeding projects to maintain visual consistency across evolutionary lines. Later generations reversed this decision, allowing hatched Pokemon to inherit their mother's ball type with only a few exceptions. Starting in Generation 6, bred offspring would appear in whatever ball the female parent had been caught in, preserving the aesthetic choices trainers made during their adventures. Master balls and cherished balls remained exceptions, their special status preventing them from passing down through breeding, forcing those offspring to default back to standard Pokeballs. This inheritance system added a new layer to competitive breeding, where players could hunt for female Pokemon in specific ball types to ensure their entire team shared a cohesive visual identity. Great Ball entered the series as the middle option, the upgrade trainers purchased when standard Pokeballs no longer felt reliable enough for stronger wild encounters. Its 1.5 times catch rate improvement represented a 50% increase over the baseline, enough to make a noticeable difference when catching mid-level Pokemon around routes 7 through 15. The design shifted from red to blue across the top hemisphere, maintaining white on the bottom while adding red accents along the equator that created a more complex visual pattern. Players encountered Great Balls for the first time in shops around the 3rd or 4th gym, their higher price point of 600 Poké Yen making them a considered purchase rather than a bulk buy. The color scheme created immediate visual distinction from standard Pokeballs, allowing trainers to quickly identify which ball type they were selecting during the rapid pace of battle. This color coding system became more important as ball varieties multiplied in later generations, with each type needing instant recognition to prevent accidental usage of rare or inappropriate balls. The blue and red combination struck a balance between familiarity and novelty, maintaining enough connection to the original design that Great Balls still felt like Pokeballs rather than entirely different devices. The Great Ball's introduction typically coincided with trainers encountering their first legitimately challenging wild Pokemon, species that wouldn't submit easily to standard balls but didn't quite justify the expense of waiting for Ultra Balls. Routes populated with evolved forms like Raticate or Fearow became Great Ball territory, areas where the improved catch rate prevented frustration without encouraging wasteful spending. Players learned to assess wild Pokemon and make quick judgments about whether Great Balls were necessary or if standard balls would suffice with a few extra attempts. The psychological impact of Great Balls lay in their transitional nature, marking the shift from early game poverty, where every purchase mattered, to mid-game stability, where trainers could afford specialized equipment. Buying the first set of Great Balls felt like progression, a tangible sign that the team had advanced beyond struggling against Pidgeys and Rattatas. This milestone lacked the dramatic weight of obtaining Ultra Balls, but it represented genuine forward momentum in the journey from novice to experienced trainer. The marketing of Great Balls within the game world, at least as implied by their availability and pricing, positioned them as practical upgrades for serious trainers who had proven themselves capable of handling stronger Pokemon. Shop clerks never commented on ball purchases, but the implicit message of Great Ball availability suggested that trainers reaching certain towns had demonstrated readiness for better equipment. This subtle progression system rewarded players without explicitly gating them, allowing anyone to buy Great Balls if they could afford them, while ensuring most trainers encountered them at appropriate times. The decline of Great Ball usage in late-game content created interesting inventory management questions. Players who stocked up on Great Balls during the mid-game often found themselves carrying dozens of obsolete tools once Ultra Balls became available. Some trainers sold their Great Ball stockpiles to fund Ultra Ball purchases, while others hoarded them for sentimental reasons or kept them as backup options when Ultra Ball supplies ran low. The decision revealed personality differences among players, with pragmatists liquidating outdated resources and sentimentalists preserving everything they accumulated. The competitive scene largely ignored Great Balls due to their inferior catch rates, with serious players jumping directly from standard Pokeballs to Ultra Balls and Specialty Balls. This utilitarian approach stripped away the narrative progression Great Balls represented, treating them as inefficient compromises rather than meaningful upgrades. The speedrunning community avoided purchasing Great Balls entirely in most routes, calculating that the time saved by skipping the middleman outweighed the slightly easier catches they provided. The Great Ball lived in an awkward space between its cheaper predecessor and its more powerful successor, used primarily during the middle hours of a playthrough before being abandoned once Ultra Balls became available. Its middling catch rate meant it struggled against the tougher wild Pokemon that appeared in late-game routes, forcing trainers to throw multiple Great Balls at creatures that might have required only one Ultra Ball. This inefficiency made the Great Ball feel like a stepping stone, something to use only when Ultra Balls weren't yet available and standard Pokeballs no longer sufficed. Speedrunners and veteran players often skipped purchasing Great Balls entirely, saving their money to stock up on Ultra Balls the moment they appeared in shops. Original Generation 1 artwork depicted the Great Ball with a yellow S emblazoned on its front, a design choice rooted in the ball's Japanese name, Super Ball. This marking appeared in early promotional materials and official art from the late 90s, though it never manifested in the actual game sprites due to the limited resolution of the Game Boy screen. The Pokemon Adventures manga preserved this detail, showing trainers in Kanto using Great Balls with prominent S letters that helped readers distinguish them from other ball types in black and white print. Later games and artwork dropped the letter entirely, simplifying the Great Ball's design to just its color scheme and removing any text or symbols that might clutter the sphere's clean aesthetic. The Ultra Ball arrived as the practical ceiling for most trainers, the strongest ball they could reasonably purchase in bulk without relying on unique items or limited event distributions. Its 2x catch rate doubled the effectiveness of standard Pokeballs, making it the go-to choice for legendary encounters, rare spawns, and any situation where failure meant significant lost time or resources. The design introduced black into the Pokeball color palette for the first time, covering the top hemisphere, while yellow formed a thick H shape across the middle and white filled the bottom. This striking three-color scheme made Ultra Balls instantly recognizable even at low resolutions, a necessary trait given how frequently they appeared in players' bags during the post-game. The name itself carried weight, with Ultra suggesting maximum capability and cutting-edge technology. This branding positioned Ultra Balls as the pinnacle of commercially available catching devices, the best that money could buy without resorting to one-of-a-kind Master Balls or event-exclusive alternatives. The psychological reassurance of having Ultra Balls in inventory made difficult encounters feel more manageable, their presence serving as insurance against the possibility of rare Pokemon escaping due to inadequate equipment. Trainers stockpiled Ultra Balls in quantities that often reached triple digits, purchasing them in bulk before attempting to catch legendary trios, roaming beasts, or version mascots that appeared only once per save file. The ball's cost of 1,200 Pokéyen per unit represented a significant investment, but its doubled catch rate justified the expense for encounters where standard balls would require dozens of attempts. Competitive players used Ultra Balls almost exclusively when building their teams, valuing function over aesthetics and accepting that most of their carefully trained Pokemon would appear from plain black and yellow spheres during battle. The availability of Ultra Balls marked a clear dividing line in the progression of most Pokemon games, separating the early and middle content from the late game and post-game challenges. Towns that sold Ultra Balls typically appeared after the 6th or 7th gym, their placement ensuring that trainers had an access to the best commercial balls before facing the Elite Four in legendary encounters. This timing felt deliberate, giving players the tools they needed for in-game content without trivializing earlier challenges by making Ultra Balls available too soon. The bulk purchase of Ultra Balls became a ritual for players preparing for legendary hunts, with many trainers buying 99 at a time to ensure adequate supply for extended catching sessions. The financial commitment of spending over 100,000 Poke Yen on a full stack represented serious dedication, though late-game economies typically provided enough income through trainer battles and item sales to make this affordable. The act of filling the bag with Ultra Balls signaled readiness for serious catching attempts, a psychological preparation as much as a practical one. The sound design of Ultra Balls throwing and shaking created expectations of power and reliability, with slightly heavier sound effects than standard balls that suggested their superior construction. The animation of Ultra Balls opening showed brighter flashes and more dramatic light effects, visual cues that reinforced their status as premium equipment. These subtle audio-visual differences accumulated across hundreds of encounters, creating unconscious associations between Ultra Balls and successful captures that made them feel more effective beyond their mathematical advantages. The prevalence of Ultra Balls in competitive play created a strange homogeneity where the most serious teams appeared from identical black and yellow spheres. This uniformity bothered some players who valued aesthetic diversity, leading to a counterculture of trainers who deliberately used specialty balls despite their lower catch rates or situational limitations. The choice to reject Ultra Ball dominance in favor of personal style represented a philosophical stance about what mattered in Pokemon training, prioritizing individual expression over pure optimization. The relationship between Ultra Ball usage and player skill level followed an inverted curve where beginners relied on them heavily, experienced players used them efficiently, and the most dedicated players often avoided them entirely in favor of more challenging or aesthetic alternatives. This pattern reflected how familiarity with catching mechanics reduced dependence on brute force solutions, allowing skilled players to succeed with weaker balls through proper strategy and patience. Trainers stockpiled Ultra Balls in quantities that often reached triple digits, purchasing them in bulk before attempting to catch legendary trios, roaming beasts, or version mascots that appeared in only once per save file. The ball's cost of 1,200 Poké per unit represented a significant investment, but its doubled catch rate justified the expense for encounters where standard balls would require dozens of attempts. Competitive players used Ultra Balls almost exclusively when building their teams, valuing function over aesthetics and accepting that most of their carefully trained Pokemon would appear from plain black and yellow spheres during battle. The Pokemon trading card game featured Ultra Balls prominently in the Team Rocket expansion set, where a card called Rocket's Sneak Attack depicted a Team Rocket grunt holding an Ultra Ball marked with a large H on its surface. This letter referenced the ball's Japanese name, Hyper Ball, paralleling the Great Ball's S for Super Ball in earlier artwork. Western audiences rarely understood this connection, seeing the H as a strange design choice rather than a linguistic nod, but the detail demonstrated how closely the TCG's artists worked with the original Japanese source material. Later card prints removed the letter, standardizing the Ultra Ball's appearance to match its in-game sprite without any additional markings. The Master Ball sits at the absolute peak of the catching hierarchy, a 100% catch rate device that removes all randomness from the capturing process. No shaking animation plays when a Master Ball makes contact, No possibility of escape exists. No calculations determine outcome. The ball simply catches, guaranteed, making it the ultimate safety net for encounters where failure is unacceptable. Its purple and pink color scheme, with a prominent M across the top, signals its special status, a visual indicator that separates it from every other ball type in the series. Trainers receive exactly one Master Ball per playthrough in most games, typically from the president of Sylph Company or a similar benefactor after completing a major story milestone. The decision of when to use the Master Ball creates one of the most discussed strategic dilemmas in Pokémon, with players agonizing over whether to deploy it on the first legendary they encounter or save it for something rarer later. Many trainers complete entire games with their Master Ball still sitting and unused in the bag, too afraid of wasting such a precious resource to ever actually throw it. This hoarding behavior became so common that it transformed into a running joke within the community, with players sharing screenshots of Master Balls gathering dust while they soft reset hundreds of times trying to catch legendaries with Ultra Balls instead. The psychological weight of the ball's rarity outweighed its practical utility, turning it into a collectible rather than a tool. A persistent myth claimed that Master Balls could fail in Generation 1 due to a glitch in the game's code, but this has been thoroughly debunked by examining the actual mechanics. The Master Ball completely bypasses the catch rate formula, setting the capture value to maximum without running any calculations that could potentially result in failure. No documented case of a Master Ball failing exists in any official Pokémon game, though corrupted ROM hacks and poorly programmed fan games have occasionally produced this result through broken code. The myth likely originated from players misremembering failed catches or confusing the Master Ball with other ball types during the chaos of battle. The anime featured a memorable scene where a trainer attempted to use a Master Ball on a Whiscash, wasting the priceless item on a common Pokémon out of panic and poor judgment. This moment served as a cautionary tale about the importance of careful planning, showing viewers that even guaranteed success could be foolishly applied to situations that didn't warrant such desperate measures. The scene resonated with players who recognized their own hoarding tendencies reflected in the opposite direction, a character who used their Master Ball too early rather than saving it indefinitely. Safari Balls entered the franchise tied exclusively to the Safari Zone, a special area where normal catching mechanics were disabled in favor of a unique minigame. Players received exactly 30 Safari Balls upon paying the entrance fee, their only tools for catching the rare Pokémon that appeared in the zone's different areas. Generation 1 gave Safari Balls a 2x catch rate, equivalent to Ultra Balls, making them surprisingly effective despite the Safari Zone's strange mechanics. The system required trainers to either throw bait to make Pokémon easier to catch but more likely to flee, or throw rocks to make them easier to catch but more likely to attack, creating a risk-reward balance that felt entirely different from standard battles. The Safari Zone represented one of the earliest attempts to vary the core catching gameplay, introducing mechanics that broke from the established pattern of weakening wild Pokémon through combat before throwing balls. The inability to battle directly forced players to rely entirely on probability manipulation through bait and rocks, creating a gambling-style experience where optimal strategy remained unclear and success felt more dependent on luck than skill. This design philosophy created intense frustration when rare Pokémon like Chansey or Tauros appeared but fled before capture, though it also generated memorable moments of triumph when difficult catches succeeded against the odds. The step limit imposed on Safari Zone visits added another layer of pressure, forcing players to balance thorough exploration against the constant countdown of remaining steps. Each movement consumed one step from the 500 allowed per entry, creating tension between finding rare spawns and actually catching them before being ejected. Players developed routing strategies that maximized rare encounter zones while minimizing wasted steps, treating the Safari Zone like a speedrun challenge where efficiency determined success. Generation 3 through 7 reduced the Safari Ball's catch rate to 1.5 times, bringing it down to Great Ball levels and making Safari Zone catches more difficult. This change reflected the developers' evolving philosophy about Safari Zone balance, shifting it from a relatively easy catching area to a more challenging test of patience and strategy. Generation 8 implemented the most dramatic change, reducing Safari Balls to a standard 1 times catch rate, while also making them available outside the Safari Zone for the first time. This unprecedented shift allowed players to use Safari Balls anywhere in the Galar region, transforming them from a location-specific tool into a regular ball type that could be thrown in any wild encounter. The democratization of Safari Balls in Generation 8 removed their mechanical distinctiveness, making them purely aesthetic choices rather than specialized tools tied to unique gameplay systems. Players who valued the traditional Safari Zone experience viewed this change with mixed feelings, appreciating the expanded utility while lamenting the loss of exclusivity that made Safari Balls feel special. The design remained tied to its Safari heritage through the camouflage pattern, but the divorce from Safari Zone mechanics meant new players might never understand the ball's original purpose. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl reversed this change, returning Safari Balls to their traditional role as Safari Zone exclusives with improved catch rates inside that specific area. This restoration of classic mechanics pleased nostalgic players who wanted the Safari Zone to maintain its unique identity separate from regular catching gameplay. The back and forth on Safari Ball implementation across different games demonstrated how even well-established items remained subject to reinterpretation as design philosophies evolved. The Safari Zone's gameplay loop created a distinct rhythm where players learned to recognize when to persist with difficult catches versus when to abandon attempts and search for new encounters. Pokemon that fled immediately after appearing taught harsh lessons about the randomness inherent in the system, while those that stayed through multiple bait throws offered hope that persistence might eventually pay off. The inability to guarantee any catch, no matter how well played, made the Safari Zone one of the few areas where skill couldn't fully overcome bad luck. The limited quantity of Safari Balls per visit encouraged conservative usage early in each session, with players hoarding balls for confirmed rare spawns rather than wasting them on common species. This resource management aspect added strategic depth beyond simple catching, as running out of balls before finding targeted Pokemon meant wasted entrance fees and lost opportunities. Advanced players calculated optimal ball expenditure rates based on their specific goals, willing to use more balls on guaranteed rares even if it meant leaving the zone early. The social aspect of Safari Zone strategies emerged through playground conversations and later online communities where players shared tips about which areas contained which Pokemon and what bait rock combinations worked best. The lack of clear optimal strategies meant folk wisdom and superstition filled the knowledge gaps, with players convinced that specific sequences of baits and rocks influenced catch rates even when no data supported their beliefs. These shared myths and strategies created a sense of communal problem-solving around one of the game's most unpredictable systems. The Sport Ball existed only in Generation 2, available exclusively in the bug-catching contest that took place in Johto's National Park every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Participants received 20 Sport Balls upon entering the contest, specialized devices designed specifically for catching bug-type Pokemon during the competition. The ball featured a 1.5 times catch rate multiplier, making it slightly more effective than standard Poké Balls, but less powerful than Ultra Balls. Its design incorporated red and white coloring, similar to a standard Poké Ball, but with a different pattern that made it visually distinct when shown in the summary screen or during battle. The Sport Ball's disappearance after Generation 2 made it one of the rarest ball types in existence, as players could only obtain Pokemon in Sport Balls by catching them during the bug catching contest or by trading with someone who had. Generation 4 remakes of Gold and Silver brought Sport Balls back for Heart Gold and Soul Silver, maintaining their exclusive connection to the bug catching contest. Later generations completely removed the Sport Balls from their item lists, making it impossible to encounter Pokemon caught in Sport Balls unless they were transferred from older games through Pokemon Bank or Home. This temporal exclusivity gave Sport Balls significant value among collectors who prized rare ball types, particularly when combined with rare bug-type Pokemon that could theoretically be caught during the contest, but required significant luck to encounter. Shiny Scyther in a Sport Ball, for instance, represented an incredibly rare combination that only the most dedicated players would pursue, requiring both the random chance of a shiny spawn during a limited time event and successful capture with the relatively weak Sport Ball before the contest timer expired. Before you settle in, maybe tap subscribe for more calm stories and share where in the world you're watching from tonight. The Fast Ball emerged from Kurt's Apricorn workshop in Azalea Town, one of 7 specialized balls the old craftsman could create from colored apricorns found on special trees throughout Johto. Fast Balls used white apricorns as their base material, resulting in a white and red color scheme that resembled a standard Poké Ball but with inverted proportions. The ball's special property activated against Pokemon with high base speed stats, providing a 4 times catch rate multiplier specifically against fast species like Sneasel, Electrode, and the legendary dogs Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. This specialization made Fast Balls incredibly valuable for catching roaming legendaries, Pokemon that fled from battle after a single turn and required special strategies to pin down long enough to throw balls. The 4 times multiplier meant Fast Balls outperformed even Ultra Balls against qualifying targets, though determining which Pokemon counted as fast enough to trigger the bonus required consulting external resources or relying on trial and error. Generation 2's implementation had a significant bug where Fast Balls only worked on 3 specific Pokemon, Magnemite, Grimer, and Tangela, due to a programming error that checked the wrong stat value when determining eligibility. This bug rendered Fast Balls nearly useless in Gold, Silver, and Crystal, frustrating players who spent white apricorns crafting balls that didn't function as intended. Heart Gold and Soul Silver fixed the bug, allowing Fast Balls to work properly against any Pokemon with a base speed stat of 100 or higher. The correction came too late for players who had already used their limited supply of white apricorns in the original games, but it restored the Fast Ball's intended functionality for modern audiences. Later generations that included Apricorn Balls maintained the fixed version, ensuring Fast Balls worked correctly against species like Electrode, Jolteon, and Crobat. Level Balls, crafted from red apricorns, implemented a tiered catch rate system based on the level difference between the player's active Pokemon and the wild target. If the player's Pokemon was more than double the wild Pokemon's level, the level ball provided an 8 times catch rate multiplier, making it extraordinarily effective in situations where high-level team members faced low-level wild encounters. Against targets between double and quadruple, the player's level, the multiplier dropped to 4 times, and against targets more than quadruple the level, it provided 2 times. This scaling system meant level balls excelled in specific scenarios, but offered no benefit when levels were roughly equal. The ball's red and black color scheme made it visually distinctive, though its effectiveness depended entirely on maintaining significant level advantages over wild Pokémon. Trainers who kept one extremely high-level Pokémon in their party could use level balls to catch low-level rare spawns with near-perfect reliability, making them useful for completing Pokédex entries for common species that appeared at low levels throughout the region. The level-based multiplier also made level balls effective for catching legendary Pokémon if the player significantly out-leveled them, though most legendary encounters scaled to levels 40 through 70, making it difficult to achieve the massive level gaps that triggered the highest multipliers. Lure balls used blue apricorns and specialized in catching Pokémon encountered while fishing, providing a 5 times catch rate multiplier against any species hooked with a fishing rod. The ball's blue and red design reflected its aquatic specialization, making it the natural choice for fishing up water types in rivers, lakes, and ocean routes. This narrow focus meant lure balls had no effect outside of fishing encounters, making them completely useless against Pokémon found in tall grass, caves, or other environments. The 5 times multiplier made them significantly stronger than Ultra Balls for their specific purpose, turning difficult fishing encounters like Gyarados or Sharpedo into easy catches with proper ball selection. Generation 2's limited number of blue apricorns meant players had to carefully manage their lure ball supply, choosing which fishing encounters justified using a specialized ball versus standard Poké Balls or Great Balls. The scarcity created interesting decisions about resource allocation, particularly when fishing for rare Pokémon like Dratini in the Dragon's Den or Lapras during specific events. Heart Gold and Soul Silver maintained this scarcity, ensuring lure balls remained a limited resource that required strategic deployment. Heavy balls, created from black apricorns, targeted extremely heavy Pokémon with a catch rate system that penalized light targets while rewarding heavy ones. Pokémon weighing less than 225.8 pounds received a negative 40 modifier to their catch rate, actually making them harder to catch than with a standard Pokeball. Targets between 225.8 and 451.5 pounds received a neutral modifier, performing identically to standard balls. Pokémon heavier than 451.5 pounds received associative 20 modifier, while those exceeding 677.3 pounds gained a positive 30, and the heaviest species exceeding 903 pounds gained a positive 40. This weight-based system made heavy balls incredibly effective against massive Pokémon like Snorlax, Onix, and Steelix, but actively detrimental against lightweight species like Ghastly or Magnemite. The ball's black and blue color scheme suggested its increased mass, a visual representation of the weight-based mechanics it employed. Trainers who understood the weight thresholds could use heavy balls to catch certain legendary Pokémon more effectively than Ultra Balls, particularly heavy species like Groudon or Giratina. The negative modifier against light Pokémon meant careless use could actually reduce catch chances, making heavy balls one of the few ball types where incorrect application made situations worse than using no specialized ball at all. Love balls utilized pink apricorns to create a catching device, specialized for encounters where the wild Pokémon was the opposite gender and same species as the player's active Pokémon. When these conditions aligned, Love Balls provided an 8 times catch rate multiplier, making them extraordinarily effective in very specific scenarios. The ball's pink color scheme and heart-shaped markings emphasized its romantic theme, playing on the idea that Pokémon of opposite genders might be more attracted to each other. This made love balls useful for catching female Pokémon when using a male of the same species as bait, or vice versa, though the restriction to same species encounters severely limited their general utility. Generation 2's implementation had a critical bug where love balls checked the gender of the player's active Pokémon incorrectly, causing them to only work when both the wild and active Pokémon were the same gender rather than opposite genders. This completely inverted the intended functionality, making love balls useless for their designed purpose throughout Gold, Silver, and Crystal. The bug wasn't fixed until Heart Gold and Soul Silver, where love balls finally worked as originally intended. Players who relied on love balls in the original Johto games found them mysteriously ineffective, not realizing that a programming error had rendered them almost completely useless. Friend balls came from green apricorns and offered a unique property that had nothing to do with catch rate. Instead, they set the caught Pokemon's friendship value to 200 immediately upon capture, significantly higher than the base friendship of most newly caught Pokemon. This instant friendship boost made friend balls valuable for players who wanted to evolve friendship-based evolutions like Crobat, Blissey, or Umbreon without spending time walking around or using friendship-boosting items. The ball's green and red color scheme made it visually distinct, though its mechanical benefit was entirely post-capture rather than affecting the catching process itself. The one-times catch rate meant friend balls performed identically to standard Pokeballs during the actual throw, making them a purely aesthetic and friendship-focused choice. Players who valued ball aesthetics sometimes used friend balls to catch Pokemon that required high friendship to evolve, creating a thematic connection between the ball type and the evolution method. The instant friendship boost saved significant time in the training process, allowing players to evolve friendship-based Pokemon much faster than normal methods would permit. Moon balls, crafted from yellow apricorns, were designed to provide a 4 times catch rate multiplier against Pokemon that evolved via Moonstone, species like Clefairy, Jigglypuff, Nidorino, and Nidorina. The ball's yellow and dark blue color scheme evoked nighttime skies, fitting its moon-themed purpose. However, like several other Apricorn balls, Moon balls suffered from a critical bug in Generation 2 that completely broke their functionality. The game checked whether Pokemon evolved via Burn Heal item rather than Moonstone, a copy-paste error in the code that rendered Moonballs functionally useless in Gold, Silver, and Crystal. This bug went unnoticed by many players who simply assumed Moonballs weren't working because they were using them against the wrong Pokemon, when in reality, the ball type literally could not function as programmed. Heart Gold and Soul Silver corrected the bug, allowing Moonballs to finally work against Moonstone evolution lines as originally intended. The fix came over a decade after the original game's release, meaning an entire generation of players experienced Moonballs as broken items without realizing it. Later games that included Apricorn balls maintained the corrected functionality, ensuring Moonballs could serve their intended purpose against Clefairy lines and other Moonstone users. Park balls appeared exclusively in the Pal Park facility introduced in Generation 4, where players could transfer Pokemon from Generation 3 games to Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. These balls had a guaranteed catch rate when used in Pal Park, ensuring that transferred Pokemon could be recaught without any possibility of failure. The ball's design featured a yellow and green color scheme that made it visually distinct from other ball types, though its exclusive use in Pal Park meant most players rarely saw it outside of the transfer process. The Park Ball existed purely as a mechanical necessity for the transfer system, providing a guaranteed way to recapture Pokémon that players already owned in previous games. The transfer process worked by selecting up to 6 Pokémon from a Generation 3 game, temporarily removing them from that cartridge and placing them in Pal Park, where the player could encounter them in special catching scenarios. Park Balls ensured this process couldn't fail due to bad luck or poor catching mechanics, making transfers smooth and stress-free. Generation 5 removed Pal Park entirely, replacing it with the Poké Transfer system that didn't require recatching Pokémon, rendering Park Balls obsolete. The ball type remains visible on Pokémon that were transferred through Pal Park and never moved to a different ball, serving as a historical marker of the transfer process used in the mid-2000s. Dream Balls became available through the Pokémon Dream World, an online service connected to Generation 5 games where players could encounter Pokémon with hidden abilities not normally available in the main games. The Dream Ball had a 4 times catch rate multiplier specifically against sleeping Pokémon, making it highly effective when combined with sleep-inducing moves. Its pink and purple color scheme, with a cloud-like pattern, reflected its connection to the Dream World service, where Pokémon existed in a surreal online environment separate from the main game world. The Dream World service shut down in 2014, making it impossible to obtain new Dream Balls through their original method. However, Pokémon caught in Dream Balls during the service's active period could be bred to pass down the ball type to offspring, allowing the balls to persist in the game ecosystem even after their source disappeared. This made Dream Ball Pokémon increasingly valuable over time, particularly those with hidden abilities that could only be obtained during the Dream World era. Later generations introduced alternate methods to obtain Dream Balls, including purchasable versions in shops and rewards from in-game events, ensuring they didn't become completely extinct. The connection between Dream Balls and sleeping Pokémon made them thematically perfect for certain species known for sleeping, like Snorlax or Komala, creating aesthetic synergies that collectors appreciated. The 4 times catch rate against sleeping targets made Dream Balls superior to Ultra Balls in situations where sleep could be reliably maintained, though this required either using sleep-inducing moves or encountering naturally sleeping Pokémon in specific areas. Beast Balls entered the series in Generation 7 as specialized tools for catching Ultra Beasts, extra-dimensional Pokémon that appeared through wormholes in the Alola region. Against Ultra Beasts, Beast Balls provided a 5 times catch rate multiplier, making them the most effective option for capturing these powerful and unusual creatures. Against all other Pokémon, however, Beast Balls had a catastrophically low 0.1 times catch rate, making them 10 times harder to use successfully than standard Pokeballs. This extreme specialization meant Beast Balls were completely useless outside their intended purpose, actively harmful if used against normal Pokémon. The ball's black and dark blue design with bright blue highlights created a technological, alien aesthetic that matched the otherworldly nature of Ultra Beasts. Players received limited quantities of Beast Balls during the story segments focused on capturing Ultra Beasts, creating pressure to succeed without wasting the specialized tools. The massive penalty against non-Ultra Beasts led to a challenge community where players attempted to catch regular Pokémon in Beast Balls despite the abysmal catch rates, treating successful Beast Ball catches as achievements worth documenting and sharing. The list of Pokémon classified as Ultra Beasts remains small and specific. Species like Nihilego, Buzzwole, Pheromosa, Xurkitree, Celesteela, Kartana, Guzzlord, Poipole, Naganadel, Stakataka, and Blacephalon. Each required Beast Balls to catch effectively, though technically Ultra Balls and other ball types could succeed with enough attempts. The 5 times multiplier made Beast Balls roughly 2.5 times more effective than Ultra Balls against Ultra Beasts, a significant advantage that justified their use despite their complete worthlessness against anything else. If you're still awake halfway through, maybe subscribe before you drift off, and tell me what time it is where you're watching from. Dive Balls appeared in Generation 3 as water-specialized catching devices that provided a 3.5 times catch rate multiplier against Pokemon encountered while surfing or underwater. This made them highly effective for catching water-type species in ocean routes, diving spots, and other aquatic environments where water Pokemon naturally appeared. The ball's blue color scheme with aquatic wave patterns fit its underwater theme, making it an obvious choice for players building teams of water types or hunting for rare aquatic species. Generation 4 expanded Dive Ball functionality to include fishing encounters, making them overlap somewhat with Lure Balls, but with a lower multiplier. The visual design of Dive Balls incorporated flowing water motifs that suggested depth in oceanic environments, creating immediate associations with their intended use case. The lighter blue coloration differentiated them from other water-themed balls like Lure Balls, establishing a distinct identity within the aquatic specialization category. The pattern resembled waves or currents, evoking the movement of water that defined the environments where Dive Balls excelled. The 3.5 times catch rate made Dive Balls stronger than Ultra Balls in their specific niche, justifying their use for difficult water encounters like Melodic, Wailord, or Kyogre. Players who explored the underwater areas in Hoenn found Dive Balls essential for efficiently catching the Pokemon that appeared in those diving sections, as the encounters tended to include rare species worth capturing. Later generations maintained Dive Ball functionality, ensuring they remained useful tools for water-focused catching in every region that followed. The underwater mechanics of Generation 3 created unique environments where Dive Balls found their perfect application. Routes that required the Dive HM to access featured different Pokemon species than surface waters, with rarer and more valuable catches incentivizing thorough exploration. The Dive Ball's boosted catch rate in these areas made underwater excursions more rewarding, reducing the frustration of encountering rare Pokemon in hard-to-reach locations only to watch them escape from weaker balls. The expansion to fishing encounters in later generations broadened Dive Ball utility significantly, making them viable alternatives to Lure Balls for players who preferred their aesthetic or already had stockpiles from previous areas. The lower multiplier, compared to Lure Balls, created the interesting optimization questions about which specialized ball to use when both applied, though most players defaulted to whichever they had more of, rather than calculating optimal choices. Dusk Balls specialized in catching Pokemon during nighttime or in caves, providing a 3.5 times catch rate multiplier in those specific conditions. The ball's black and green color scheme gave it a dark, mysterious appearance that fit its association with nighttime and underground areas. This dual trigger condition made Dusk Balls incredibly versatile, as most games featured numerous cave systems where the multiplier applied regardless of actual time of day. Players exploring Mount Coronet, Victory Road, or other extensive cave systems could rely on Dusk Balls to catch everything from common Zubat to rare legendary encounters. The cave functionality of Dusk Balls made them arguably the most universally useful specialized ball in the game, as cave environments appeared throughout every region's geography. Unlike balls that required specific weather, time of day, or Pokemon types to trigger bonuses, Dusk Balls worked in entire geographic zones that players couldn't avoid during normal progression. This meant carrying a stack of dusk balls provided value throughout the entire journey rather than just in specific encounters. The nighttime functionality meant dusk balls also worked perfectly for catching nocturnal Pokemon that only appeared after dark, creating natural synergies with the game's day-night cycle. Species like Hoothoot, Murkrow, and Misdreavus appeared exclusively at night in most games, making them ideal candidates for dusk ball catches. The 3.5 times multiplier placed dusk balls above ultra balls for effectiveness, making them the optimal choice for any situation where their trigger conditions applied. Many players kept dusk balls as their primary catching tool during cave exploration, switching to other ball types only when they emerged into daylight areas. The aesthetic appeal of dusk balls made them popular among trainers who favored dark-type Pokemon or preferred gothic design sensibilities. The black and green combination created a sinister, elegant appearance that matched the mysterious nature of many cave-dwelling and nocturnal species. Collectors who valued thematic consistency often used dusk balls exclusively for ghost, dark, and poison-type Pokemon, creating teams where ball choice reinforced type specialization. The time-based trigger for dusk balls created interesting interactions with games that allowed players to manipulate the internal clock. Trainers who advanced their system time to nighttime hours could trigger dusk ball bonuses anywhere outside caves, effectively expanding the ball's utility beyond their intended scope. This exploit required planning and willingness to manipulate game systems, but it demonstrated how deeply players engaged with catching mechanics when optimizing their strategies. Heal balls introduced a unique post-capture effect rather than affecting catch rate. They fully restored the caught Pokemon's HP and eliminated any status conditions immediately upon successful capture. This convenience saved players from needing to visit Pokemon centers or use healing items after catching new Pokemon, particularly useful during long exploration sessions far from towns. The ball's pink and white color scheme with a medical cross symbol emphasized its healing theme, making its purpose immediately visually apparent. The standard 1x catch rate meant heal balls performed identically to regular Pokeballs during the catching process itself. Heal balls found their primary use in situations where players wanted to immediately use a newly caught Pokemon in battle without returning to heal first, particularly during challenge runs or self-imposed restrictions that limited Pokemon Center access. The instant healing effect also made heal balls valuable for catching Pokemon that might have been left at low HP or with status conditions during the catching process, ensuring they emerged from the ball in perfect condition. Competitive players rarely used heal balls since the instant healing effect had no benefit for Pokemon that would be fully healed and trained regardless, making them purely a quality-of-life choice. Luxury balls provided a hidden benefit by doubling the rate at which caught Pokemon gained friendship points, allowing friendship-based evolutions and friendship-influenced mechanics to progress twice as quickly. The ball's black and gold color scheme gave it an elegant, premium appearance that suggested its luxury status, though its mechanical benefit was entirely invisible during normal gameplay. The 1x catch rate meant luxury balls functioned identically to standard Pokeballs during the catching attempt, making them a post-capture investment rather than a catching aid. Players who wanted to evolve friendship-based Pokemon quickly used the luxury balls to accelerate the process, cutting the required walking distance and time investment in half. Species like Crobat, Blissey, Espeon, and Umbreon benefited significantly from being caught in luxury balls, as their evolution requirements depended entirely on reaching maximum friendship. The doubled friendship gain stacked with other friendship-boosting items, like the Soothe Bell, creating powerful synergies for players who wanted to maximize friendship growth rate. Collectors who valued aesthetics often used luxury balls for their entire team simply because the black and gold color scheme looked impressive during battle when Pokemon were sent out. Nest balls implemented a reverse level-based catch rate system where lower-level wild Pokemon were easier to catch than higher-level ones. The formula provided up to a 4 times catch rate multiplier at level 1, scaling down linearly until it reached a 1 times multiplier at level 31 and beyond. This meant Nest balls excelled at catching very low-level Pokemon, but became no better than standard Poké Balls once wild levels exceeded 30. The ball's green and yellow color scheme, with a bird's nest pattern, fit its name and as low-level specialization. The scaling catch rate made Nest balls useful for catching base form Pokemon that appeared at low levels early in the game, particularly baby Pokemon or first stage evolutions that players wanted to train from scratch. Routes with level 3 to 10 encounters became prime Nest ball territory, where the high multiplier made catches nearly guaranteed. The ball's effectiveness dropped dramatically in late game areas where wild Pokemon appeared at levels 40 and above, making them useless for catching legendary Pokemon or other high-level targets. Players who understood the level cutoff could use Nest balls efficiently in early routes before switching to more universally effective balls for later content. Net balls specialized in catching bug and water-type Pokemon, providing a 3.5 times catch rate multiplier against any species with either of those types. This dual-type focus made net balls broadly useful across many different environments, as bug and water types appeared frequently throughout most regions. The ball's blue and yellow pattern resembled a fishing net, fitting its name and mechanical purpose. Generation 7 expanded netball functionality to include a 3.5 times multiplier against all Pokemon in water, making them work against non-water types encountered while surfing or fishing. The broad type coverage meant netballs remained relevant throughout entire playthroughs, useful in early game forests full of bug types and late game ocean routes dominated by water types. Legendary Pokemon like Kyogre, Suicune, and many of the Ultra Beasts had water typing, making netballs surprisingly effective for some of the game's most important catches. The 3.5 times multiplier exceeded Ultra Ball's 2 times rate, making netballs the mathematically optimal choice whenever their type restrictions applied. Players who wanted to optimize their catching efficiency kept netballs in inventory specifically for bug and water encounters, switching to them whenever the opportunity arose. The type-based triggering system of netballs created interesting situations where dual-type Pokemon qualified as long as one of their types was bug or water. A Pokemon like Surskit, with bug and water typing, benefited from netball bonuses twice over, while species like Lantern or Gyarados remained valid targets despite having secondary types that weren't bug or water. This inclusive approach to type checking meant netballs had wider application than players initially realized, working against any Pokemon where bug or water appeared anywhere in their type listing. The fishing net aesthetic of netballs made them thematically appropriate for water-type specialists who wanted their team's ball choices to reflect their elemental focus. Trainers building mono-water teams sometimes used netballs exclusively for the visual coherence it created, accepting that some team members might have been easier to catch with other balls in exchange for the unified appearance. This aesthetic motivation demonstrated how ball choice transcended pure mechanical optimization for players who valued thematic consistency. The Generation 7 expansion to include all water-based encounters, not just water-type Pokemon, created confusion about exactly which situations triggered netball bonuses. A normal-type Pokemon encountered while surfing qualified for the bonus, despite not being a water type, while a water-type Pokemon encountered in tall grass received the bonus based on its type alone. This dual qualification system made netballs extremely versatile for players who understood the mechanics, though casual players often missed the subtleties and used them only for obvious bug and water-type encounters. Repeat balls offered a 3.5 times catch rate multiplier against any species the player had already registered in their Pokédex, making them ideal for catching duplicates or hunting for specific natures and abilities. The ball's black and yellow color scheme, with repeating circle patterns, suggested its duplication theme, while the mechanics encouraged players to complete Pokédex entries before using repeat balls for competitive catching. Generation 7 buffed repeat balls to a 3 times multiplier, making them even more effective for catching Pokémon the player had encountered before. The Pokédex registration requirement created an interesting chicken and egg situation where players needed to catch a Pokémon at least once before repeat balls became useful for that species. This meant repeat balls had zero value for catching entirely new Pokémon, forcing trainers to use other ball types for first encounters or simply letting the target flee to register it before attempting capture with repeat balls. The registration check included Pokémon seen, but not caught, meaning encountering a legendary and letting it faint still enabled repeat ball bonuses for subsequent attempts. The Pokédex check meant repeat balls were useless for catching entirely new species, forcing players to either catch one with a different ball first or rely on encountering that species and letting it flee to register it. Once registered, however, repeat balls became one of the most effective catching tools in the game, outperforming Ultra Balls against any already documented species. Shiny hunters valued repeat balls highly, since shiny hunting typically involved encountering the same species hundreds or thousands of times, making the Pokédex registration requirement trivial. The improved catch rate helped ensure that shiny encounters didn't escape due to bad luck, particularly important for full odds hunting, where each shiny appearance represented hours of searching. The psychological comfort of using repeat balls against already seen Pokémon came from knowing the bonuses were active, without needing to check environmental conditions or battle states. Unlike Dusk Balls that only worked in specific locations, or Timer Balls that required turn counting, repeat balls simply worked against any registered species, regardless of circumstances. This reliability made them the default choice for players who valued consistency and predictability in their catching strategies. The breeding implications of repeat balls created interesting scenarios for competitive players who wanted specific Pokémon in repeat balls. Since bred offspring inherited their mother's ball type, obtaining a female in a repeat ball meant all subsequent breeding projects could produce repeat ball offspring. This allowed players to build entire competitive teams in repeat balls by carefully managing breeding chains, creating visual unity across teams while enjoying the ball's practical benefits during the initial catching phase. The competitive community's adoption of repeat balls for team building reflected their pragmatic approach to ball selection. While some players valued rare or aesthetically distinctive balls, others simply wanted effective catching tools that wouldn't fail during important encounters. Repeat balls offered the perfect balance of reliability and accessibility, available for purchase in most games and powerful enough to handle difficult catches without requiring specific conditions or circumstances. The name repeat ball carried connotations of repetition and cycling that resonated with the grinding nature of competitive breeding and shiny hunting. Players who spent hours encountering the same species repeatedly found thematic satisfaction in using a ball specifically designed for repeated catches, creating narrative coherence between tool and task. The circular pattern on the ball's surface reinforced this cycling imagery, suggesting endless loops of catching and recatching. The evolution of repeat ball mechanics across generations showed relatively minor changes compared to other specialty balls, with the main adjustment being the Generation 7 buff that increased the multiplier. This stability suggested the developers felt repeat balls had found their optimal niche early in their existence, requiring only numerical tuning rather than fundamental mechanical redesigns. The consistency made repeat balls one of the more predictable tools in the catching arsenal, building player confidence through reliable performance. Timer balls implemented a time-based catch rate system that started at 1 times on the first turn of battle and increased by 0.3 times each turn, capping at 4 times after 10 turns. This scaling made timer balls incredibly powerful in long battles where the player needed multiple turns to whittle down the target's HP or apply status conditions. The ball's black and red color scheme with clock markings emphasized its time-based mechanics, making its purpose visually clear. Generation 5 rebalanced timer balls to increase by 0.3 times per turn up to a maximum of 4 times after 11 turns, further improving their late battle effectiveness. The strategic implications of timer balls extended beyond simple waiting, as players developed specific turn-counting strategies to maximize their efficiency. Trainers who employed false swipe to reduce HP to 1 point knew they needed several turns of setup before the move became available, during which timer ball effectiveness naturally ramped up. The synchronization between turn count and battle preparation made timer balls feel designed for patient, methodical approaches to catching rather than quick attempts that relied purely on luck and brute force. Legendary encounters often lasted many turns due to the high HP and defensive stats of legendary Pokémon, making timer balls naturally suited for these difficult catches. Players who employed stalling strategies like false swipe to reduce HP to 1 or used sleep-inducing moves that required multiple turns to set up found timer balls reached maximum effectiveness precisely when they were ready to start throwing. The 4 times multiplier exceeded Ultra Balls by a full 2 times, making timer balls the strongest general-purpose catching device once enough turns had passed. Speedrunners avoided timer balls entirely, since their strategy focused on minimizing turn count, but casual players and completionists found them invaluable for the game's toughest catches. The turn-counting aspect of timer ball optimization became a metagame unto itself for dedicated catchers who wanted to maximize efficiency. Some players developed mental timers that tracked turns automatically, while others counted aloud or used external tracking methods to ensure they didn't throw timer balls prematurely. The knowledge that waiting just one more turn could increase catch rates by 30% created interesting risk-reward calculations, particularly when facing Pokémon that knew self-destructing moves or had limited PP for their attack set. The aesthetic design of timer balls communicated their temporal nature through visual motifs that suggested clocks, countdown sequences, and time measurement. The red and black color scheme created urgency and importance, fitting for a ball that required patience and careful timing to use effectively. The clock face pattern on the ball's surface served as a constant reminder of its unique mechanic, distinguishing it from other specialized balls that relied on environmental or species-specific triggers. Quick balls offered an inverse time strategy with a 5 times catch rate multiplier on the first turn of battle, dropping to 1 times on all subsequent turns. This made them perfect for catching weak Pokemon that didn't require setup, allowing players to potentially secure instant captures on the very first action of an encounter. The ball's bright yellow and blue color scheme suggested speed and immediacy, fitting its first turn specialization. Generation 5 buffed Quick Balls to a 5 times multiplier, making them exceptionally powerful opening moves. The psychology of Quick Ball usage involved accepting high-risk, high-reward gambles where success meant efficient captures and failure meant switching to slower strategies. The dramatic effectiveness difference between turn 1 and turn 2 created sharp decision points where players had to commit to either burning a Quick Ball immediately or accepting they would need to fight the encounter conventionally. This binary choice felt fundamentally different from other ball types that allowed gradual ramping or conditional triggering based on ongoing battle states. The first turn restriction meant Quick Balls failed if the initial throw didn't secure a capture, forcing players to switch to other ball types for the remainder of the battle. Players who wanted to catch rare spawns quickly kept Quick Balls at the top of their bag, immediately throwing them at the start of unexpected encounters with Pokemon like Chansey or Ditto. The 5 times multiplier gave Quick Balls a surprisingly high success rate, even against fully healthy Pokemon, though legendary encounters and other high-value targets usually required follow-up strategies when the Quick Ball inevitably failed. Shiny hunters used Quick Balls as panic buttons when shiny Pokemon appeared, throwing them immediately to minimize the risk of the shiny fleeing or fainting due to retaliation moves. The instant deployment eliminated the need for careful strategizing during high-stress encounters where adrenaline and excitement could lead to fatal mistakes. The Quick Ball's 5 times multiplier meant it succeeded more often than desperate trainers expected, creating moments of relief when unexpected shinies were secured on the first throw without any chance for something to go wrong. The community developed specific protocols around Quick Ball usage in different scenarios, with general consensus emerging that they should always be attempted first on any rare or valuable encounter that appeared unexpectedly. The opportunity cost of wasting a Quick Ball was minimal compared to the potential disaster of a rare Pokemon escaping or fainting, making the first turn throw standard procedure rather than optional strategy. This universal adoption of Quick Ball opening strategies changed how players approached random encounters, shifting from reactive catching to proactive and immediate deployment. The economic accessibility of Quick Balls, available for purchase at reasonable prices in most games, meant players could maintain large stockpiles without breaking their budget. This abundance encouraged liberal usage rather than conservative hoarding, as buying another 50 Quick Balls required only a few minutes of trainer battles to fund. The lack of scarcity removed the psychological barriers that made specialty balls feel precious, allowing Quick Balls to function as intended rather than sitting unused in bags due to perceived rarity. Cherished balls existed exclusively for event-distributed Pokemon, handed out during special promotions, distributions, and competitions. The ball had a standard 1 times catch rate in the rare instances where it appeared in-game as a usable item, but its primary purpose was aesthetic rather than functional. The red and gold color scheme created an elegant, premium appearance that signified the special nature of event Pokemon caught within. Players could not purchase cherished balls or obtain them through normal gameplay, making every Pokemon caught in one a mark of attending specific events or receiving special distributions. Event legendaries distributed through wireless downloads or code redemptions always came inside cherished balls, creating immediate visual confirmation that a Pokemon was legitimately obtained from an official source rather than caught in-game. This made cherished balls important for verifying the authenticity of rare event Pokemon in trading communities, though hacked Pokemon could also be placed in cherished balls to mimic legitimate distributions. The ball type could not be passed down through breeding, with all offspring defaulting to standard Pokeballs, regardless of whether their mother was in a cherished ball. This prevented the ball from proliferating beyond its intended limited distribution. Premier balls were given as free bonuses when purchasing 10 or more regular Pokeballs at once, serving as a promotional incentive with no mechanical advantage over standard balls. The 1x catch rate made them functionally identical to regular Pokeballs, with only the aesthetic difference of a white and red color scheme that inverted the standard ball's design. Players who bought Pokeballs in bulk accumulated large quantities of Premier Balls as free additions, often using them for catches they wanted to look visually distinctive without affecting catch rate. The Premier Balls' aesthetic appeal made it popular among collectors who wanted their teams to have a unified color scheme, particularly those who preferred lighter, cleaner ball designs. The fact that Premier Balls were free removed any opportunity cost for using them, making them pure aesthetic choices with no strategic implications. Some players deliberately saved Premier Balls for legendary encounters or shiny Pokemon, treating them as ceremonial options for the most important catches, even though they perform no better than standard balls. The Strange Ball appeared in Scarlet and Violet as a placeholder graphic for Pokemon caught in ball types that didn't exist in those games, particularly Hisuian exclusive balls from Legends Arceus. When transferred through Pokemon Home, these Pokemon displayed the Strange Ball graphic instead of their actual ball type, creating a generic catch-all appearance for unavailable balls. The ball's cloudy, light green design looked deliberately plain and unremarkable, emphasizing its role as a temporary placeholder rather than a permanent ball type. Sword and Shield handled this differently by simply displaying all Hisuian balls as regular Pokeballs, choosing simplification over placeholder graphics. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl used the Strange Ball as a visual placeholder without making it an actual obtainable item, keeping it purely cosmetic. Legends. Arceus made the Strange Ball an actual item in the game's code, though players couldn't throw it in the overworld, and it only appeared in menus during battles. The implementation varied across games as developers struggled with how to represent ball types that didn't exist in newer generations while maintaining backward compatibility through transfer systems. The breeding system prevented Strange Balls from passing down to offspring, along with Master Balls and Cherish Balls, forcing bred Pokemon to default to standard Pokeballs. This ensured that Strange Ball appearances remained confined to transferred Pokemon and couldn't spread through normal gameplay. Hisuian Pokeballs represented the ancient predecessor to modern ball technology, crafted from apricorns and tumblestones in the Hisui region centuries before contemporary Pokemon games. The tumblestones served as the energy-storing component that allowed the balls to capture and release Pokemon, a mysterious material whose exact properties were never fully explained in Legends Arceus. The ancient crafting process created balls that resembled modern versions, but with rougher textures and more primitive construction, fitting the game's historical setting. Feather Balls, Wing Balls, and Jet Balls specialized in catching flying-type or highly mobile Pokemon, providing bonus catch rates against species that moved quickly or flew through the air. Their designs incorporated wing motifs and lighter colors that suggested aerial combat, making them visually appropriate for trainers specializing in flying types. The balls served a similar purpose to the various Apricorn balls from Johto, creating specialized niches that rewarded players for understanding which ball type worked best in each situation. Heavy Balls and Leaden Balls in the Hisuian era focused on stealth-based catching, providing increased catch rates when trainers successfully snuck up on wild Pokemon and initiated battles from behind or by surprise. This rewarded careful positioning and patient stalking, encouraging gameplay that felt more like hunting than traditional random encounters. The Gigaton Ball represented the heaviest variant, offering the highest stealth bonuses for players who mastered the sneaking mechanics. The transition from Hisuian balls to modern Poké Ball technology remained deliberately vague in the lore, with no clear explanation for how Apricorn-based crafting evolved into the mass-produced industrial balls seen in contemporary games. The time gap between Legends Arceus and Diamond/Pearl suggested centuries of technological development, during which the basic Pokeball design became standardized and manufacturing shifted away from individual crafting toward factory production. The Pester Ball from Pokemon Snap served a completely different function from traditional Pokeballs, designed to release irritating gas that drove Pokemon out of hiding or knocked them out of the air rather than capturing them. Its appearance resembled a chemical canister more than a traditional ball, with industrial design elements that emphasized its utility purpose. Players used Pester Balls to manipulate Pokemon positions for better photo opportunities, creating scenarios where normally hidden species became visible or where aerial Pokemon were forced to land. The Pester Ball's aggressive functionality made it ethically questionable from a lore perspective, as it deliberately caused discomfort to Pokemon purely for the photographer's convenience. The game presented this without moral commentary, treating it as a simple tool for achieving photography goals. Later, Pokemon Snap iterations removed or redesigned the Pester Ball concept, suggesting developers became uncomfortable with its aggressive nature. Mewtwo's Poké Balls, sometimes called Clone Balls or Capture Balls, appeared in the first Pokemon movie as sinister devices capable of stealing Pokemon from other trainers. The balls had a dark color scheme with an eye pattern that gave them a threatening, malevolent appearance, fitting Mewtwo's role as the movie's antagonist. Their ability to override the ownership of already caught Pokemon represented a severe violation of the bond between trainer and Pokemon, creating dramatic tension as the heroes watched their partners forcibly extracted from their regular Pokeballs. The movie never explained the exact mechanism that allowed Mewtwo's balls to capture already caught Pokemon, treating it as a demonstration of Mewtwo's superior technology and psychic power. The captured Pokemon were then cloned, creating the movie's central conflict around the ethics of artificial Pokemon creation. The clone balls remained exclusive to the anime, never appearing in the games as usable items or obtainable tools, preserving them as unique to that specific movie's plot. Team Rocket's various Pokeball designs across different media reflected the organization's corporate identity and villainous branding. The simplest version featured standard Pokeballs with black lids and prominent Team Rocket logos, creating immediate visual identification of the ball's ownership. Later iterations introduced purple coloration with jagged white lines, creating a more aggressive and distinctive appearance that made Team Rocket balls instantly recognizable during anime battles. The Dark Ball from Pokemon Forever offered one of the most sinister ball variants in the franchise, capable of capturing other trainers' Pokemon while simultaneously corrupting them and increasing their power. The ball darkened, caught Pokemon's colors, and amplified their aggressive tendencies, creating weaponized versions of normal species. This resembled the forced evolution experiments Team Rocket conducted at the Lake of Rage in the Johto games, suggesting a possible connection between the Dark Ball technology and Team Rocket's ongoing research into Pokemon manipulation. The Dark Ball's permanent effects on caught Pokemon made it more dangerous than Mewtwo's clone balls, which simply captured without altering the Pokemon's nature. The corruption aspect implied that Dark Balls worked through some form of mind control or genetic modification, fundamentally changing the Pokemon rather than just restraining it. Like most movie-exclusive items, Dark Balls never appeared in the main series games, remaining confined to the specific movie's storyline. Annie and Oakley's personalized Pokeballs from Pokemon Heroes featured large lip patterns on their tops, creating a distinctive feminine aesthetic that matched the characters' designs. The balls had no special mechanical properties beyond their appearance, serving purely as character accessories that reinforced Annie and Oakley's visual identity. The interesting contradiction arose when merchandise of these balls was produced alongside the movie's release, with the toys adding 2 small holes near the top that resembled eyes. This toy-based modification created an unintended design change as fan art and community interpretations began incorporating the eye holes into the ball's appearance, even though they didn't exist in the movie itself. The toy effectively influenced the perceived canonical design, demonstrating how merchandise could retroactively alter fan understanding of what items looked like. Later depictions of these balls sometimes included the eye holes and sometimes didn't, creating inconsistency in how they were portrayed across different media. The sheer variety of Poké Ball types across the franchise demonstrated the developers' commitment to expanding the catching mechanics beyond simple success or fail dice rolls. Each specialized ball created strategic decisions about resource allocation, teaching players to match ball types to specific situations for optimal efficiency. The aesthetic dimension added another layer, with collectors and competitive players carefully selecting ball types to create visually cohesive teams or signal specific achievements through rare ball possession. The evolution of Poké Ball mechanics across generations showed how the core catching system remained flexible enough to accommodate new ideas while maintaining the fundamental loop of weakening, statusing, and throwing that defined the Pokemon experience. Early generations kept ball variety limited, but later entries expanded the options dramatically, creating a rich ecosystem of catching tools that rewarded system mastery and careful planning. The distinction between mechanically superior balls and aesthetically preferred balls created a fascinating player choice dynamic where competitive players often accepted that suboptimal ball types in exchange for visual appeal or personal preference. A Master Ball guaranteed success, but lacked the satisfaction of earning a difficult catch through skill and persistence. A Beast Ball used on a regular Pokemon represented a challenge achievement worth documenting, despite its terrible catch rate. The social dimension of ball types emerged through trading communities where certain ball combinations became status symbols or markers of dedication. Shiny Pokemon in matching balls, like shiny Rayquaza in a luxury ball or shiny Melodic in a love ball, represented aesthetic achievements beyond simple Pokedex completion. Female Pokemon in rare balls became valuable breeding stock, allowing the ball type to propagate through generations of offspring. The preservation of ball types through transfer systems ensured that balls from older generations didn't disappear as the series evolved. A Pokemon caught in a Safari Ball during Generation 3 could be transferred through multiple games and generations, arriving in contemporary titles still wearing its original ball. This created living histories where the ball type itself told a story about when and how the Pokemon was caught, what game it originated from, and what challenges the player overcame to obtain it. The technical implementation of ball mechanics revealed interesting quirks in how the games calculated catch rates. The formula combined the target's current HP percentage, its species-specific catch rate value, the ball's multiplier, and any status condition bonuses into a series of checks that determined whether the ball shook once, twice, 3 times, or clicked shut. Understanding this formula allowed players to optimize their catching strategies, calculating exactly how much damage to deal before the catch rate reached acceptable levels. The status condition hierarchy placed sleep and freeze at the top with a 2.5 times multiplier, followed by paralysis, burn, and poison at 1.5 times. These multipliers stacked with ball modifiers, creating powerful combinations like a sleeping Pokémon in a dusk ball at night, reaching absurdly high catch rates that made success nearly guaranteed. The stacking mechanics rewarded players who understood the system, while casual players could succeed through brute force and persistence without ever learning the underlying mathematics. The critical catch mechanic, introduced in Generation 5, added randomness to the catching process, occasionally triggering guaranteed captures regardless of calculated catch rates. When a critical catch occurred, the ball shook only once before clicking shut, skipping the normal 3-shake sequence. The probability of critical catches increased with Pokédex completion, rewarding players who caught many different species with better chances at instant captures. This mechanic frustrated players attempting specific catching challenges, or those who wanted to experience the full tension of 3 shakes before learning the result. The animation and sound design of Poké Balls created much of the catching experience's emotional impact. The distinctive opening sound when a ball was thrown, the unique wiggle pattern as it shook, the different tones for each shake, and the final triumphant click or disappointing burst all combined to create moments of tension and release. Players learned to read the shake patterns, recognizing the subtle differences in timing and sound that suggested whether a catch would succeed or fail. The personality traits some players attributed to their catches emerged from these mechanical quirks and random patterns. A legendary that broke free on the first shake felt defiant, while one that shook 3 times before escaping felt tantalizingly close to success. These anthropomorphized interpretations added narrative weight to what were ultimately random number generation outcomes, transforming dry calculations into stories about challenging catches and hard-earned victories. The metagame around ball aesthetics evolved its own community standards and preferences. Certain balls became associated with specific legendary Pokémon or particular trainer archetypes. Competitive players developed preferences for specific color combinations that looked better in battle animations. Trading communities established value hierarchies where some ball combinations commanded premiums while others were considered common or unremarkable. The breeding implications of ball inheritance created complex planning requirements for competitive breeders who wanted their entire team in matching balls. Since only the female parent's ball passed down, obtaining a female starter or legendary in a specific ball required either lucky encounters or trading for carefully bred specimens. Male-only species could never pass their balls to offspring, limiting customization options and creating gaps in collection possibilities. The distinction between legal and legitimate ball combinations added another layer to the collecting metagame. Legal combinations were technically possible within the game's code, while legitimate combinations were actually obtainable through normal gameplay. Hacked Pokémon could be placed in illegal ball combinations, like Cherish Ball eggs or Master Ball bred offspring, creating red flags for trading communities attempting to verify authenticity. The symbolic meaning of Poké Balls within the franchise's broader themes resonated beyond simple catching mechanics. The ball represented the partnership between human and Pokémon, a consensual bond rather than enslavement, despite some critics' interpretations. The anime and games repeatedly emphasized that Pokémon could refuse to stay in balls or break free if they chose, suggesting the Ball wasn't a prison, but a tool that facilitated cooperation. The minimization technology that allowed massive creatures to fit inside palm-sized spheres never received detailed scientific explanation, treated as accepted background technology like flying cars or energy beams in science fiction. The conversion between physical Pokémon and the energy stored in balls remained deliberately vague, allowing players to imagine whatever explanation satisfied them without being contradicted by canon. The healing properties of Poké Balls, where recalled Pokémon remained in stasis without aging or requiring food, created logistical conveniences that prevented the games from becoming survival simulators. Players could store hundreds of Pokémon indefinitely without worrying about maintenance or care, though the anime sometimes addressed these practical concerns through episodes showing Pokémon being regularly released for exercise and bonding. The cultural impact of the Pokeball design extended far beyond gaming into mainstream recognition. The red and white sphere became one of the most recognizable symbols in entertainment, appearing on merchandise, in media references, and as shorthand for Pokémon in general. The simple, bold design worked across scales and contexts, from tiny phone icons to massive parade floats, maintaining its identity through all transformations. The manufacturing evolution from handcrafted Apricorn balls to mass-produced industrial products mirrored real-world technological advancement, showing a world that industrialized its relationship with Pokémon over time. The loss of customization and individual craftsmanship in exchange for reliability and availability reflected broader themes about modernization and standardization. The special balls that required specific conditions, locations, or achievements to obtain created memorable gameplay moments where players had to work for access to better tools. The satisfaction of finally reaching the point where Ultra Balls became available, or finding the move tutor who provided Apricorn balls, added progression milestones beyond simply gaining levels and badges. The disappointment of watching a legendary Pokémon break free from ball after ball created some of the most tense moments in the franchise. The uncertainty of each throw, the resource management of deciding which balls to use when, and the celebration when the final click confirmed capture created emotional arcs that elevated catching mechanics beyond simple menu navigation. The speedrunning community developed intricate strategies around ball usage, calculating the minimum number of attempts needed to catch required Pokémon and optimizing ball purchases to minimize shop time. The randomness of catching created variance in speedrun attempts, where unlucky catch sequences could ruin otherwise perfect runs through no fault of the player. The challenge communities that imposed restrictions on ball usage created artificial difficulty that tested system mastery. Catching every Pokémon with only standard Pokéballs, or attempting to build competitive teams using only nest balls, transformed easy mechanical processes into demanding accomplishments worth celebrating and documenting. The nostalgic associations players developed with specific ball types reflected their personal histories with the franchise. The ball type used to catch a first starter, the ball that finally secured a difficult legendary after hours of attempts, or the ball present during a lucky shiny encounter became emotionally weighted beyond their mechanical properties. The future of Pokeball design remains open as new generations introduce new mechanics and concepts that might spawn new ball variants. The pattern of each generation adding specialized balls suggests future games will continue expanding the catching ecosystem, though the core trio of Pokeball, Great Ball, and Ultra Ball seems unlikely to ever change. The night deepens, and these details about catching tools settle into memory. The significance of the Pokeball crystallizes into something larger than mechanics and multipliers. Each sphere represents possibility, the chance to partner with a creature, the beginning of a journey together. The variety of balls available doesn't complicate this simple truth, but enhances it, offering choices that let trainers express preferences and priorities through the tools they select. The technical specifications and catch rate calculations fade into background noise compared to the emotional weight of the capture moment when a ball stops shaking and confirms a new partnership. The distinction between a quick ball thrown in panic and a luxury ball chosen for aesthetics matters less than the bond formed between trainer and Pokémon afterward. The ball becomes a vessel for stories, each type carrying associations and memories that transcend their programmed functions. The careful design decisions that created dozens of specialized ball types showed respect for player agency and preference, acknowledging that different trainers value different aspects of the catching experience. Some players prioritized efficiency and used whatever ball offered the highest catch rate. Others chose aesthetics and carefully matched ball types to Pokémon species. Both approaches were valid. Both were supported by the variety of options available. The evolution of ball mechanics across 25 years of Pokémon games demonstrated the franchise's commitment to iterating and improving even its most fundamental systems. The jump from simple Pokeballs and Great Balls in Generation 1 to the complex ecosystem of specialized balls in modern games showed developers listening to player feedback and expanding on successful foundations. The bugs that plagued Apricorn balls in Generation 2 and were fixed in remakes showed willingness to acknowledge and correct mistakes. The preservation of historical ball types through transfer systems and backward compatibility honored the time and effort players invested in their catches across different game generations. A Pokémon caught in 2003 could still be used in battles in 2026, its Safari Ball or Friend Ball intact, carrying forward the story of its original capture. This continuity created living relationships with Pokémon that spanned literal decades of real time. The symbolic resonance of the Poké Ball as a tool of partnership rather than domination remained central to the franchise's themes. The ball didn't enslave Pokémon, but invited cooperation, creating a framework where both human and creature benefited from the relationship. The choice to enter the ball, to fight alongside the trainer, to remain loyal rather than flee, suggested mutual respect rather than forced servitude. The mystery of what Pokémon experienced inside their balls, whether they remained conscious or entered a dreamless stasis, stayed, deliberately unaddressed in most games. The anime sometimes showed Pokémon aware of their surroundings from inside balls, while other episodes treated recall as instant unconsciousness. This ambiguity allowed players to imagine whatever explanation felt most comfortable, whether it was a Pokémon-sized apartment or simple suspended animation. The tradition of releasing Pokémon when they were no longer needed, setting them free from their balls to return to the wild, appeared occasionally in game dialogue and anime episodes. This option acknowledged that the partnership wasn't permanent bondage, but a cooperative arrangement that could end when not either party chose. The games rarely forced this choice on players, but the existence of the release function served as a constant reminder that capture wasn't forever unless both trainer and Pokémon wanted it to be. The economics of ball pricing created interesting gameplay pressure, forcing early game players to carefully manage limited funds while late game trainers could buy balls in whatever quantities they wanted. The decision to spend on 10 Pokeballs versus saving for a few Great Balls taught resource management and planning, while the eventual abundance of money in post-game made ball choice purely strategic or aesthetic rather than financial. The collection aspect of obtaining every ball type in a game appealed to completionists who wanted full item dexes alongside their Pokédexes. Some balls required specific achievements, locations, or timing to obtain, creating sub-goals within the broader completion objective. The satisfaction of filling an entire ball pocket with every available type mirrored the satisfaction of completing other collection challenges. The competitive community's embrace of ball aesthetics as a status symbol created a strange inversion where the most dedicated players cared deeply about cosmetic details that had no mechanical impact on battles. Shiny Pokémon in matching balls, legendaries in thematically appropriate balls, and full teams in coordinated ball types became markers of dedication and attention to detail that separated casual players from serious collectors. The mathematical foundation of catch rate calculations revealed layers of complexity hidden beneath the simple act of throwing a ball. The game ran multiple checks every time a ball made contact with a wild Pokémon, first calculating a modified catch rate based on the target's current HP percentage, then applying status condition multipliers, then incorporating the ball's own catch rate modifier. These values fed into a formula that generated a random number and compared it against threshold values to determine how many shakes would occur before either capture or escape. The exact formula varied slightly between generations as developers refined the mathematics, but the core principle remained consistent across all games. The target's maximum HP divided by its current HP created a variable that scaled from one at full health to higher values as damage accumulated. Species-specific catch rates, ranging from 3 for difficult legendaries to 255 for common early game Pokémon, provided base values that the formula multiplied against. Ball modifiers then amplified these calculations, with Master Balls simply bypassing the entire system to guarantee success. The hidden nature of these calculations meant most players developed intuitive understanding through trial and error rather than mathematical analysis. They learned that red health Pokémon caught more easily than yellow health ones, that sleeping targets submitted more readily than paralyzed ones, and that certain ball types worked better in specific situations. This practical knowledge developed organically through hundreds of catching attempts, creating player expertise that didn't require understanding the underlying numbers. The status condition hierarchy created interesting strategic considerations about which afflictions to apply before throwing balls. Sleep and freeze offered the highest multipliers at 2.5 times, effectively doubling the catch rate on top of whatever ball bonuses applied. Paralysis, poison, and burn provided smaller 1.5 times multipliers, still valuable but noticeably weaker than sleep states. Trainers who carried sleep-inducing moves like Spore or Hypnosis gained significant catching advantages, though the unreliability of accuracy checks meant sleep strategies carried their own risks. The interaction between multiple multipliers created exponential scaling, where stacking beneficial conditions produced dramatically improved catch rates. A dusk ball used in a cave at night against a sleeping low HP legendary combined multiple sources of bonuses into a single throw that approached near guaranteed success. Understanding these stacking mechanics separated expert catchers from casual players, allowing skilled trainers to turn seemingly impossible catches into routine captures through proper setup. The critical catch mechanic, introduced in Generation 5, added another layer of randomness that occasionally overrode even difficult catching situations. Critical catches occurred randomly based on Pokédex completion percentage, with higher completion rates increasing the probability of triggering the special catch animation. When critical catch is activated, the ball shook only once before immediately clicking shut, bypassing the normal 3-shake sequence and guaranteeing capture regardless of calculated odds. The visual and audio differences of critical catches made them instantly recognizable, with a distinctive sparkling effect and unique sound that alerted players to the guaranteed success. The relief of seeing a critical catch triggered during a difficult legendary encounter created memorable moments where luck intervened to prevent potential disasters. However, the mechanic also frustrated players, attempting specific catching challenges, as critical catches removed the satisfaction of earning difficult captures through perfect execution. The shake mechanics themselves carried subtle variations that observant players learned to recognize. The rhythm and timing of shakes provided no actual information about capture probability, despite player superstitions to the contrary, but the animation patterns created psychological investment in each attempt. Balls that broke open after one shake felt like immediate failures, while balls that reached the third shake before escaping created false hope that the next attempt might succeed. The sound design of successful captures, with the distinctive three-tone jingle and final clicking sound, became one of the franchise's most satisfying audio rewards. Players developed Pavlovian associations between that sound and the dopamine release of accomplishment, making successful catches feel rewarding beyond their practical value. The absence of this sound during failed attempts created disappointment that motivated continued trying until success finally triggered the reward. The relationship between catch rate and player patience revealed interesting psychological patterns about frustration, tolerance, and persistence. Difficult catches that required dozens of attempts tested players' willingness to continue despite repeated failures, with success or abandonment often depending on individual temperament rather than strategic considerations. Some players gave up after 10 failed attempts, while others persisted through hundreds, driven by determination or sunk cost fallacy to justify the time already invested. The RNG-dependent nature of catching meant that identical setups could produce wildly different results across multiple attempts. A legendary at 1 HP and asleep could escape from 20 consecutive Ultra Balls through bad luck alone, while another player might catch the same legendary on their first throw. This variance created fairness concerns among players who felt skill should guarantee success, though others appreciated the element of unpredictability that made each catch attempt feel meaningful. The soft reset culture around legendary catches emerged from this RNG variance, with players repeatedly reloading save files to retry encounters until achieving desired outcomes. The ability to reset before balls or turned attempts made legendary hunting less resource-intensive, allowing unlimited retries without depleting ball supplies. This practice became so common that games began designing legendary encounters with soft resetting in mind, autosaving before battles to facilitate the expected retry behavior. The philosophical divide between players who valued aesthetic ball choices versus those who prioritized catch rate optimization reflected different approaches to game engagement. Pure optimizers used whatever ball mathematics dictated was best, accepting that their teams would appear from a limited variety of ball types. Aesthetes deliberately used weaker balls to achieve specific visual goals, accepting longer catching times in exchange for personalized team appearances. Both groups found validation in the game's design, which supported multiple valid approaches to the same mechanical system. The social performance of ball choice in online battles created additional motivation for aesthetic coordination beyond personal satisfaction. Players who battled competitively online knew their opponents would see their team's ball types during the pre-battle animation sequence, creating opportunities to signal dedication, style, or collecting achievements through coordinated ball choices. Rare ball combinations or full teams in matching uncommon balls communicated investment and attention to detail that purely optimized ball selections couldn't convey. The documentation culture around rare ball combinations produced extensive community resources cataloging which Pokémon could legally appear in which ball types. Spreadsheets and databases tracked ball availability by generation, breeding compatibility, transfer restrictions, and event distributions, creating comprehensive references for collectors pursuing complete ball dex goals. These resources demonstrated the depth of engagement the community brought to systems that games never explicitly encouraged, finding additional meaning in mechanics that developers might have considered purely utilitarian. The streaming and content creation communities built entire channels around ball-related challenges, with creators attempting to catch complete living dexes in matching ball types or hunting for specific rare combinations. These self-imposed challenges created content that resonated with audiences who appreciated the dedication required to complete arbitrary but demanding goals. The documentation of these journeys through videos and streams preserved catching achievements that would otherwise exist only in individual save files. The temporal aspect of ball availability created windows of opportunity that closed as games aged and services shut down. Event-exclusive balls distributed through limited-time promotions became permanently unobtainable once those events ended, creating scarcity that drove trading value and collection completion anxiety. Players who missed specific distribution windows found themselves unable to obtain certain ball combinations without trading, forcing social interaction or acceptance of permanent incompletion. The preservation efforts of dedicated collectors who maintained living dexes across multiple generations ensured that rare ball types didn't disappear from the game ecosystem even after their sources became unavailable. These players carefully bred and traded their collections, serving as repositories of ball types that new players could access through community goodwill. The gift economy that emerged around rare ball Pokemon demonstrated how player-driven systems could sustain content beyond official support. The future trajectory of ball design remained uncertain as new mechanical systems and catching paradigms emerged in recent games. The introduction of new capture methods, like Legends Arceus's throw without battling system, suggested developers were willing to fundamentally reimagine catching mechanics, potentially rendering traditional ball specializations obsolete or requiring redesign. The question of whether future generations would continue expanding ball variety or consolidate around core types remained open, dependent on design philosophies that might prioritize simplification over accumulated complexity. The player attachment to specific ball aesthetics and mechanics created expectations that new games needed to respect rather than discard. Fans who had spent years collecting Pokémon in specific ball types would resist changes that invalidated those investments, creating conservative pressure against radical redesigns. The balance between innovation and tradition in ball design reflected broader tensions in the franchise about how much to change versus how much to preserve across generational transitions. The educational value of ball mechanics as introduction to probability and statistical thinking went largely unrecognized, but existed nonetheless. Players who engaged deeply with catch rate optimization learned to think about percentages, compound probabilities, and expected value calculations without formal instruction. The practical application of these mathematical concepts in pursuit of gaming goals created learning opportunities that traditional education might struggle to match for engagement. The accessibility of ball mechanics, despite their mathematical complexity, demonstrated excellent design that separated interface from implementation. Players could succeed through pattern recognition and experience without ever learning the formulas, while those who wanted deeper understanding could discover and analyze the underlying mathematics. This layered complexity allowed the system to serve both casual and hardcore audiences without forcing either group to engage at inappropriate depth levels. The iteration on ball designs across generations showed refinement of both aesthetic and mechanical elements as developers learned what worked and what didn't. Early balls sometimes had unclear purposes or buggy implementations, while later editions benefited from accumulated experience in creating specialized catching tools. The evolution from simple color variations to complex conditional triggers demonstrated growing sophistication in how balls could differentiate themselves while maintaining intuitive usability. The legacy of Poké Balls as gaming icons extended beyond their functional role to represent the entire catching gameplay loop that defined Pokémon. The act of throwing a ball became synonymous with the franchise itself, appearing in marketing, merchandise, and cultural references as shorthand for Pokémon's core appeal. No other item in the games achieved similar iconic status, making balls the visual and mechanical center of the franchise's identity. The relationship between ball rarity and player behavior revealed how scarcity drove value beyond mechanical utility. Master Balls sat unused not because they lacked power, but because their irreplaceable nature made them feel too valuable to spend. This hoarding instinct created situations where the most powerful tool in the game never fulfilled its purpose, teaching developers that pure power wasn't sufficient to encourage usage if psychological barriers prevented deployment. The community wisdom about ball usage, transmitted through guides, forums, and social learning, created shared knowledge that transcended individual experience. New players absorbed this wisdom from veterans, learning which balls to save for which encounters and which strategies maximized success. This intergenerational transfer of catching expertise built community continuity, connecting players across time through shared understanding of mechanical systems. The catching experience as culmination of multiple systems, damage calculation, status effects, ball selection, probability management, demonstrated how simple mechanics could combine into rich gameplay. No single element carried the full weight of catching success, instead requiring players to orchestrate multiple factors into cohesive strategies. This multi-system integration created depth that sustained engagement across hundreds of hours of gameplay without becoming incomprehensible. The moments of pure joy when rare catches succeeded after long struggles reminded players why they invested time in these mechanical systems. The celebration of finally catching a shiny legendary, securing a perfect IV Pokémon, or completing a challenging ball collection goal created emotional peaks that justified the grinding valleys. These highs and lows together formed the catching experience's emotional landscape, making success meaningful through the contrast with failure. The quiet satisfaction of throwing the perfect ball for each situation, matching mechanics to circumstances with practiced expertise, represented mastery of systems that rewarded knowledge and planning. Expert catchers developed intuitions about which ball to select without conscious calculation, their understanding automated through repetition until optimal choices became instinctive. This expertise felt earned rather than granted, developing gradually through accumulated experience. The historical evolution of ball availability across generations created distinct eras in catching culture, each defined by which specialty balls existed and how they functioned. Generation 1's simplicity, with only 4 ball types, created straightforward decision trees, while modern games, dozens of options, required encyclopedic knowledge to fully optimize. This increasing complexity reflected the franchise's maturation, adding depth for veteran players while potentially overwhelming newcomers who faced analysis paralysis when confronted with too many choices. The aesthetic evolution of ball designs showed refinement in visual communication as artists learned to convey mechanical purpose through appearance. Early specialty balls sometimes had unclear functions based on their designs alone, requiring players to read descriptions or test them experimentally. Later balls incorporated more obvious visual metaphors: nets for net balls, clocks for timer balls, moons for moon balls, that helped players intuit their purposes before checking detailed information. The technical limitations of early hardware constrained ball sprite complexity, forcing designers to work within tight pixel budgets that limited how much visual detail could be incorporated. The jump from Game Boy to Game Boy Advance to Nintendo DS allowed progressively more sophisticated ball designs with better color depth and higher resolution, though the fundamental red and white sphere template remained recognizable across all technical iterations. This visual continuity ensured that even players jumping into the series after years away could immediately recognize Pokeballs despite graphical improvements. The merchandising of specialty balls as real-world collectibles created physical manifestations of digital items, allowing fans to own and display ball types they valued in games. These products ranged from simple plastic toys to elaborate display pieces with electronic features, serving different market segments from children to adult collectors. The most detailed replicas commanded premium prices, suggesting that adult fans' willingness to pay for quality representations of childhood gaming memories sustained a thriving collectibles market. The community taxonomy of ball types into categories like breeding balls, legendary balls, and shiny hunting balls reflected player-driven organization systems that games never explicitly defined. These informal classifications helped players communicate strategies and preferences without requiring comprehensive knowledge of every ball's specific mechanics. The shared vocabulary that emerged from community discussion created efficient communication shortcuts that made trading and collaboration more practical. The narrative potential of ball types to tell stories about individual Pokemon's capture circumstances remained mostly unexplored by official media, but flourished in fan works. Players wrote backstories explaining why specific Pokemon appeared in particular balls, creating character development through mechanical details that games treated as purely functional. These fan narratives demonstrated how invested communities could find meaning in any system element, transforming utilitarian game mechanics into storytelling tools. The accessibility philosophy embedded in ball design ensured that players could succeed without mastering every specialty ball's niche. The core trio of regular, great, and ultra balls provided straightforward progression that functioned in all situations, while specialty balls offered optional optimization for players who wanted to engage more deeply. This design respected both casual players who preferred simplicity and hardcore players who enjoyed mechanical depth, creating multiple valid approaches to the same content. The psychological investment players developed in their ball collections created emotional stakes around the inventory management decisions that transcended mechanical value. Selling off obsolete great balls felt like discarding a piece of the journey's history, while hoarding every ball type, even when some rarely saw use, created cluttered inventories that required more management time. These decisions revealed player personalities through their approach to digital resource management. The role of balls in speedrunning strategies highlighted how even guaranteed systems introduced variance through RNG-dependent catching. Runners developed complex probability calculations about expected catch times, determining whether to use more expensive balls for better odds or cheap balls with more attempts. The math of optimizing both time and resource costs created fascinating strategic puzzles where multiple valid solutions existed depending on how runners valued different types of efficiency. The challenge run culture that developed around ball restrictions demonstrated player creativity in generating new content from old games. Runs that required catching everything in standard Pokeballs or using only balls matching each Pokemon's primary color transformed familiar gameplay into novel experiences. These self-imposed restrictions extended game longevity by creating fresh challenges that demanded new strategies and approaches. The streaming culture around shiny hunting brought ball bells, selection decisions, into public performance where viewers could comment on and judge every choice. Streamers developed reputations based on their ball preferences, with some known for always using matching balls, while others prioritized pure optimization. The parasocial relationship between streamers and audiences meant these preferences became part of streamer identity, elements of personal brand, as much as strategic choices. The collector mentality that drove ball decks' completion goals shared psychological patterns with other collecting hobbies, offering similar satisfaction from organizing, cataloging, and completing sets. The finite nature of ball varieties in each generation created achievable completion goals that larger collections like full living dexes might lack, making ball collections more accessible achievements for casual completionists. The display and organization of these collections in digital storage boxes mirrored physical collecting behaviors translated into virtual space. The asymmetric information between developers and players about catch rate formulas created knowledge gaps that community research filled through data mining and statistical analysis. Players who extracted game code and analyzed the actual mathematical formulas provided public goods in the form of detailed guides and calculators that improved everyone's catching efficiency. This community reverse engineering demonstrated dedication to understanding systems that games deliberately kept opaque. The balancing act developers faced between providing enough ball variety to create interesting choices without overwhelming players with options became more challenging as the total number of ball types grew. Each new specialty ball needed to fill a distinct niche without making existing balls obsolete or redundant, requiring careful mechanical design that respected the established ecosystem. The generally successful execution of this balancing across 8 generations testified to thoughtful design iteration. The regional exclusivity of some ball types in certain generations created trading inequalities where players in different versions had access to different tools. This asymmetry encouraged cross-version trading and community cooperation, turning mechanical differences into social affordances. The removal of most version-exclusive balls in later generations suggested developers moved away from this design philosophy, potentially finding that the social benefits didn't justify the frustration of locked content. The lore implications of ball technology advancement across the in-game timeline raised interesting questions about how capturing methods evolved within the Pokemon world. The jump from Apricorn crafting to industrial production represented fundamental technological revolutions that games acknowledged through Hisuian balls but never fully explored. The social and economic impacts of Poké Ball democratization presumably reshaped how humans and Pokemon interacted, though this remained background world building rather than explicit narrative focus. The environmental symbolism of different ball types reflected real-world conservation and wildlife management practices adapted to fantasy contexts. Safari zones operated on game reserve principles with catch limits and special regulations, while specialty balls that worked better in specific habitats acknowledged that catching strategies should respect environmental conditions. This subtle ecological awareness threaded through ball mechanics without becoming preachy or heavy-handed. The military and law enforcement applications of Poké Ball technology raised ethical questions that games mostly avoided but anime occasionally addressed. Organizations like Team Rocket used balls for criminal purposes, while police and rangers used them for public safety, creating moral complexity around tools that enabled both beneficial and harmful outcomes. The neutral framing of balls as general-purpose equipment sidestepped deeper examination of how powerful capture technology could be misused. The generational transfer of ball knowledge from experienced players to newcomers created teaching moments where veterans could demonstrate expertise and welcome new community members. Explaining which balls worked in which situations or why certain combinations were valuable gave veteran players opportunities to contribute to newcomers' learning curves. This knowledge sharing strengthened community bonds and helped preserve institutional knowledge across player generations. The museum quality preservation of rare ball combinations by dedicated collectors ensured that even discontinued ball types remained accessible through trading rather than disappearing from the game ecosystem entirely. These collector curators served important archival functions, maintaining diversity in circulating Pokémon populations that newer players could access. The gift economy around these preserved rarities, demonstrated community generosity, and investment in collective rather than purely individual collection goals. The meme culture that developed around ball-related decisions and behaviors reflected how mechanics became part of shared cultural vocabulary. Jokes about master ball hoarding, debates over optimal legendary ball choices, and celebration of unusual ball combinations created in-jokes that signaled community membership. These shared references made ball selection a social phenomenon beyond its mechanical function. The artistic expression possible through team ball coordination revealed how even constrained customization systems allowed meaningful personalization. Players with entire teams in matching love balls or coordinated rainbow patterns across different ball types demonstrated creativity within rigid mechanical constraints. The limitations actually enhanced creative expression by providing clear boundaries within which to work. The seasonal and event-based ball distributions created time pressure that drove engagement spikes around the limited availability windows. Players who might have taken breaks from games returned to collect exclusive ball types before distribution periods ended, demonstrating how scarcity mechanics sustained long-term player retention. The fear of missing out on permanently unobtainable content motivated consistent engagement even from otherwise casual players. The philosophical question of whether balls were tools or extensions of trainer identity received different answers from different players. Some viewed them as purely functional equipment to be selected based on mechanical optimization, while others saw ball choices as expressions of personality and values. The game design supported both philosophies equally, never forcing players to choose between effectiveness and self-expression. The relaxation and meditation potential of repetitive catching routines provided stress relief for players who found the predictable loop soothing rather than boring. The low-stakes nature of most catching attempts, combined with intermittent reward schedules from successful captures, created engagement patterns that some players found calming. The catching gameplay loop could function as active meditation for players seeking mindful gaming experiences. The achievement satisfaction from completing difficult catching challenges created dopamine responses that reinforced continued engagement with ball mechanics. Each successful legendary capture or rare ball combination completion provided quantifiable progress toward goals that felt meaningful within the game's reward economy. The achievement system, both official and player-created, transformed catching from necessary gameplay element into achievement pursuit worth doing for its own sake. The nostalgia factor of classic ball types in modern games connected longtime players to franchise history through persistent design elements. Seeing the same red and white Pokeball across decades of games created continuity that grounded even radically different new entries in familiar tradition. This calculated preservation of iconic elements alongside innovation in new ball types balanced change and stability. The accessibility of catching mechanics despite their depth meant that ball systems welcomed players of all skill levels and engagement styles. Casual players could succeed with minimal knowledge using readily available balls, while hardcore optimizers could pursue marginal improvements through perfect ball selection. The scalable complexity allowed the system to serve the entire player spectrum simultaneously. The temporal investment required for rare ball combinations created sunk costs that increased emotional attachment to completed collections. Players who spent hundreds of hours assembling specific ball sets developed ownership feelings that purely purchased collections couldn't replicate. The time investment became part of the collection's value story, making each rare combination represent not just the Pokémon itself, but the journey to obtain it. The ritual aspects of catching routines created personal traditions that varied wildly between players, but shared common elements of preparation and execution. Some players always saved before legendary encounters and performed specific button sequences they believed brought luck, while others approached each catch clinically without superstition. These personal rituals transformed mechanical actions into meaningful ceremonies that marked important game moments. The community documentation of optimal ball strategies created living repositories of knowledge that evolved as new mechanics were discovered or old strategies proved suboptimal. Wiki pages and spreadsheet databases preserved years of accumulated wisdom, allowing each new player generation to benefit from predecessors' experimentation without repeating every test. This collaborative knowledge building demonstrated how player communities could enhance game experiences beyond what developers explicitly designed. The frustration tolerance required for difficult catches with weak balls tested player patience in ways few other game mechanics matched. Attempting to catch a full health legendary with standard Pokeballs required accepting failure rates exceeding 99%, making each attempt almost certainly unsuccessful. The players who persisted through hundreds of failures to achieve these challenge goals demonstrated determination that transcended rational cost-benefit analysis, motivated by personal satisfaction rather than practical rewards. The screenshot culture around rare ball catches created visual proof of accomplishments that existed only in digital save files. Players photographed their rare combinations and shared them online, creating permanent records of temporary achievements that might otherwise disappear if save files corrupted or hardware failed. These shared images formed galleries of player accomplishment that celebrated both common milestones and extraordinary rarities. The language evolution around ball discussions showed how specialized terminology emerged to efficiently communicate complex mechanical interactions. Terms like Apricorn for Apricorn ball Pokemon or Bank Ball for balls only obtainable in older generations became community shorthand that conveyed significant information concisely. The development of this specialized vocabulary indicated mature community knowledge systems where efficient communication about complex topics required technical terminology. The cross-generational compatibility of ball types through transfer systems created continuity that honored player investments across hardware generations and decades of real time. A Pokemon caught in a lure ball in 2000 could still display that ball type in 2026 games, preserving the original catching context across 26 years and multiple console generations. This remarkable backwards compatibility demonstrated Nintendo and Game Freak's commitment to respecting player time and effort investments. The philosophical implications of ball choice as expression of values revealed how even small decisions reflected deeper player priorities. Choosing aesthetic balls over optimal ones prioritized beauty over efficiency, while selecting rare balls demonstrated collection completion drives, and using matching balls showed organizational tendencies. These micro-decisions accumulated into patterns that revealed player personalities through their mechanical choices. The economic systems around ball acquisition in different games created varying resource pressures that shaped catching strategies. Games with expensive balls and limited money encouraged conservative usage and careful ball selection, while games with cheap balls and abundant funds allowed wasteful experimentation. These economic constraints influenced player behavior significantly, making identical catching scenarios play out differently based on resource availability contexts. The tutorial design around ball mechanics showed developers' attempts to teach complex systems through guided experience rather than overwhelming text dumps. Early forced catches with provided balls demonstrated basic mechanics, while gradual introduction of specialty balls prevented information overload that might paralyze decision-making. The careful pacing of these tutorials reflected understanding that catching complexity needed scaffolded introduction rather than immediate full system exposure. The emergent narratives that players created around specific ball types transformed utilitarian items into story elements with thematic resonance. A player might use only dusk balls for ghost-type teams, creating thematic unity between catching tools and captured species. These self-imposed narrative constraints added meaning to mechanical choices that games treated as neutral, demonstrating how players could find story potential in any system element. The preservation anxiety around limited ball types drove trading behavior and community resource sharing that might not occur if all balls were freely available. Players who missed event distributions relied on community generosity to obtain event-exclusive balls, creating social debts and reciprocity networks. These informal gift economies strengthened community bonds through mutual assistance around shared collecting goals. The design philosophy evolution around balls showed developers learning which complexities enhanced gameplay versus which created frustrating obstacles. The bug fixes and Apricorn ball mechanics between generations demonstrated responsiveness to player frustration, while the continued expansion of specialty balls showed commitment to providing meaningful choices. This iterative refinement process made modern ball systems more robust and player-friendly than early implementations. The sensory feedback loops around successful catches created powerful conditioning that made throwing balls inherently satisfying, regardless of strategic importance. The visual spark, the bouncing animation, the shaking sequence, the click sound, and the capture jingle combined into a multi-sensory reward that fired dopamine responses. This carefully crafted feedback made catching feel good at a neurological level, encouraging continued engagement through pleasure rather than just progress. The mathematical elegance of catch rate formulas, despite their hidden complexity, created systems that behaved intuitively even when players didn't understand underlying calculations. Damaged Pokémon caught more easily, sleeping ones submitted more readily, and better balls worked better. These relationships made intuitive sense without requiring formula comprehension. The invisible mathematics served gameplay without burdening players with mandatory number crunching, though community detective work that uncovered hidden mechanics and secret formulas demonstrated dedication to understanding systems that developers kept deliberately opaque. Data miners who extracted actual code and testers who ran thousands of trials to derive catch rate formulas provided community services that benefited everyone. This volunteer research labor created public goods from private investigation, making hidden knowledge accessible. The role of balls in player expression through team presentation showed how even functional tools could serve aesthetic purposes. Coordinated ball types created visual themes during battle introductions, allowing players to communicate style preferences and collection achievements to opponents. These nonverbal communications through ball choices added personality to competitive battles that pure gameplay optimization would lack. The accessibility features of clear catch rate indicators in modern games acknowledged that hidden mechanics could frustrate rather than intrigue some players. The addition of catch rate previews and effectiveness indicators reduced trial and error learning requirements, making optimal ball selection more transparent. This quality of life improvement showed developers recognizing that mystery could become annoyance without careful balancing. The seasonal nostalgia cycles around specific ball types created periodic revivals of interest in older mechanics as new players discovered classic balls through remakes and transfers. Each generation brought new audiences who experienced Safari Balls or Apricorn Balls for first times, creating fresh appreciation for historical designs. These discovery moments kept old content relevant by continuously introducing it to new player cohorts. The intersection of ball collecting with other collection metagames created compound goals where multiple systems reinforced each other. Players pursuing living dexes in specific balls combined Pokédex completion with ball collecting, creating challenges more complex than either goal individually. These layered objectives appealed to completionists who wanted maximum complexity from their collection pursuits. The meditation potential of repetitive catching loops provided therapeutic value for players seeking calming gameplay experiences. The low-risk, low-stress nature of most catches, combined with predictable reward schedules, created soothing rhythms. The catching gameplay could function as active relaxation, offering gentle engagement that didn't demand intense focus or quick reactions. If you're still awake halfway through, maybe subscribe before you drift off, and tell me what time it is where you're watching from. The archival value of preserving ball-type information across generations created historical records of how catching mechanics evolved over the franchise's lifetime. Future players examining old ball implementations could trace design philosophy changes and mechanical refinements across decades. This preservation, through continued functionality rather than museum archiving, kept historical content alive and usable rather than merely documented. The achievement infrastructure around balls, both official and player-created, transformed functional choices into accomplishment opportunities worth pursuing beyond practical necessity. Catching every Pokémon in matching balls or completing full ball dex collections became personal challenges that players shared and celebrated. These self-imposed goals extended gameplay longevity by creating additional objectives beyond base game content. The trading card game's simplified ball mechanics showed how complex video game systems could be adapted for different play contexts while maintaining thematic consistency. Physical cards couldn't replicate catch rate calculations or conditional bonuses, so they abstracted balls into simple success or failure states. This demonstrated how core concepts could translate across media while accepting that mechanical details wouldn't survive format changes. The symbolic weight of certain balls exceeded their mechanical properties through association with significant game moments or cultural memes. Master Balls represented ultimate power and impossible choice paralysis simultaneously, while Safari Balls evoked specific nostalgia for Generation 1's unique catching minigame. These symbolic associations made balls carriers of meaning beyond their programmed functions. The design restraint shown in not introducing overwhelmingly powerful balls that trivialized all catching reflected understanding that challenge mattered to player satisfaction. If every ball guaranteed capture, catching would lose tension, and victory would feel unearned. The preservation of uncertainty and failure possibility kept catches meaningful by ensuring success required some combination of strategy, persistence, and luck. The community curation of ball combination legality databases helped distinguish legitimate collections from hacked ones, preserving competitive integrity and trading trust. These volunteer-maintained resources required constant updating as new games changed what combinations were possible, demonstrating ongoing community labor to maintain collective standards. The informal enforcement of these standards through social pressure showed self-governance emerging from shared values. The performative aspect of ball choice in streaming and competitive contexts transformed personal decisions into public statements about priorities and values. Streamers known for using only premier balls or always matching ball colors to Pokémon developed reputations around these choices, making ball selection part of their content identity. The audience expectations that developed around these patterns created consistency pressures that turned aesthetic preferences into brand commitments. The generational knowledge transfer between parent and child players created family traditions around ball usage and catching strategies. Parents who played original games taught children about safari zones and Apricorn balls, passing down mechanical knowledge alongside nostalgic stories. These intergenerational teaching moments connected family members through shared franchise engagement spanning decades. The preservation of ball aesthetics through merchandise and media adaptations kept designs relevant beyond their mechanical contexts. Animated series that showed characters throwing specific ball types reinforced visual recognition, while physical replicas let fans own tangible versions of digital items. This multimedia presence elevated balls from game mechanics to cultural icons recognizable even to non-players. The quality of life improvements in ball selection interfaces across generations showed developers recognizing that inventory management shouldn't obstruct catching gameplay. Better sorting options, ball effectiveness indicators, and quick selection shortcuts removed friction between decision-making and execution. These refinements demonstrated attention to player experience details that significantly improved usability without changing core mechanics. The competitive intelligence gathering around opponent ball choices created metagame information extraction from pre-battle animations. Observant players could infer breeding effort and collection dedication from ball types, potentially revealing how seriously opponents took team building. These subtle information leaks added psychological dimensions to competitive play beyond pure battle mechanics. The modding community's creation of custom ball types in fan games demonstrated player desire for even more variety and specialization than official games provided. These unofficial additions explored design space that Game Freak hadn't touched, creating balls with novel mechanics or aesthetics that influenced discussions about what future official balls might include. The creative output showed how engaged communities could iterate on official systems when given appropriate tools. The relationship between ball scarcity and player behavior patterns revealed how resource limitations shaped strategic thinking and risk tolerance. Players with abundant balls experimented freely, while those with limited supplies made conservative choices. The psychological weight of scarcity influenced decisions far beyond what pure mathematics would suggest, demonstrating how perception shaped behavior as much as reality. The legacy preservation through continued functionality rather than archival documentation, kept historical balls alive in current gameplay rather than relegated to museums. Players could still catch Pokemon in sport balls or Apricorn balls decades after those mechanics' original implementations, experiencing historical content as living gameplay rather than curiosity exhibits. This active preservation honored franchise history while maintaining practical utility. The communal celebration of rare catches and difficult accomplishments created shared joy that strengthened community bonds beyond individual achievements. When players shared screenshots of shiny legendaries in matching balls or completed ball decks collections, responses ranged from congratulations to collaborative strategizing about how to replicate success. These interactions built social capital through mutual support and recognition. The design future of ball mechanics remained open to innovation as new catching paradigms emerged in recent games. Legends. Arceus's seamless catching without traditional battles suggested fundamental reimagining possibilities, while maintaining ball variety showed commitment to preserving choice even within new systems. The balance between innovation and tradition in future ball design would shape how the franchise evolved while respecting its foundations. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed drifting through these quiet moments, there's another video waiting on the left of your screen. Let it play while you rest. You might discover something gentle before sleep takes you again.